Hi everyone, and welcome back to the.
Shut the cyber fuck
I
up, you
pressed the
donk,
wrong
and
button.
listen to the Higgledy Piggledy podcast.
Let's redo that, but we're keeping this in, baby. Hi, welcome back to the
Higgledy podcast.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, we're back, baby. New season, 100 years.
Oh yeah.
Don't know what season this is. I want to say season
Like
5 or season 6.
6, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I lost track like 2 seasons ago, so I've each time gone like it's this one or this one. So I'm definitely in the right ballpark. But cool. We've been off for a while. Well, actually, no, we've had 1 week off, but it feels like a while. I don't know. I've had a very busy couple of weeks.
I mean, 1 week off is technically 2 weeks since we last did it, so that is quite a long time when you think about it. 14 days.
Yeah, and as I say, lots happened in those 14 days. I've like socialized, and I had days off, and now I'm on my final week of working at my current company. So yeah, busy life currently.
I too have done the former 2 of those things. I'm not on my final week of work, unfortunately, but
you could be.
I mean, I could.
How much notice do you need?
Looking. I'm not too sure, honestly. I should probably find that out.
Yeah, just go to your boss and be like, "Yeah, I'm quitting. Final week, baby." But yeah, no, cool. All right. Well, we've got a lot to cover because it's not just that. I think this is one of the other reasons why it feels like a long time off. It's not just 2 weeks off. It was also 2 weeks when like just shitloads of news has happened. And
yeah.
So, full disclosure, we're not going to talk about every bit of cool nerd stuff that's been announced in the last 2 weeks because we literally just went through the list of stuff that we really wanted to talk about, and it's still super long. So strap yourselves in because this is probably going to be a big one. And yeah,
this is when it actually turns out to be like the shortest podcast we've done.
It's probably because we're going to be like trying to like actively like keep ourselves in check. So it's gonna come in at an hour long. It's not, maybe 2 hours. So the first thing I want to talk about then is there was a really interesting article published by Vanity Fair about the future of Star Wars. Specifically Star Wars in television, but I guess it does mention film as well. Obviously, like, the big thing is Kenobi is coming out in, like, a couple of days now, right? I can't remember the exact release day, but it's, like, this week.
Sure, I wonder if it says in this article.
It probably does, but it might be quicker for me to Google. Let's see.
May 27th.
May 27th, so 4 days away as of recording, probably 3 days as of uploading, unless I'm slow. Cool. So yeah, that's what, this Friday, right?
Believe so, yeah.
Damn, now I've got a tough decision. Do I watch it before going to Comic-Con or after? I've got to watch it before Comic-Con, right? Okay, spoilers. That's like ground zero for spoilers is Comic-Con.
What you got to do is you got to watch the series or, the episode or whatever it is.
2 episodes, I believe.
2 episodes. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You got to watch the 2 episodes really early in the morning and then quickly whip together a Kenobi costume, but like just put a spoiler in the costume somewhere and just to be an asshole. Just
no,
to piss people off.
I think I just go back to my parents' house, dig up my old Jedi bathrobe, and wear that as my cosplay, and then just strap an actual car spoiler to my back.
That would be great.
With a lightsaber that's the wrong color. Although Luke has wielded,
I think.
Wielded sounds right, but also sounds wrong. But all the others sound much more wrong. So I'm gonna go with wielded. A yellow lightsaber, and mine is orange. That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so they talked about the future of Star Wars. It's a big Vanity Fair thing where they got, I believe it's the photographer who did like the posters for the prequel trilogy. Well, not the posters, but the promo photos for the prequel trilogy. They got her to come back and shoot Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. You got, I was about to say Din Djarin as the Mandalorian, but that's not right. It's Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin, who is the Mandalorian. You've got Diego Luna, who is playing, he's returning as Cassian Andor. They also had, I can't remember the names, but the person who plays Mon Mothma was there for the photo shoot. They presumably for Andor. They had the person who's going to be playing the new Inquisitor for Kenobi. And I think that might... Oh, and Hayden Christensen was in the Darth Vader suit. I think that was everyone there for the photo shoot in terms of like actors. And so big photo shoot, big article basically talking about the things they've learned and what they're planning for the future. And there were a couple of cool reveals and just interesting stuff, I guess. One of the cool things that was announced, I don't know whether intentionally announced, but it was announced, is that Andor will apparently also be airing this summer. Still no release date, but this summer, at like toward the end of this summer, so I'm going to assume like August, September sort of time, which that's probably the Disney Plus live action show I'm most hyped for other than Mandalorian Season 3, just because I think the premise of that is very promising. And the article has Diego Luna talking about, what he kind of found in the material about it being, something he could relate to in terms of things like immigration and diasporas, because the story is very much the Empire spreading out into the galaxy and people being kind of forced around, and him saying that he could relate to that, as I believe he is a Mexican. So, there's interesting bits there. And then Ewan McGregor let slip that his new wife is indeed going to be in Ahsoka, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So
Wait, they actually got married?
Yeah, fairly recently.
Oh, Christ.
Alex is not happy with the union. We don't need to go into why. You can Google why, and that should tell you why Alex is unhappy with the union. But Ewan McGregor in his bit of the interview kind of mentioned that his son is growing up in a very Star Wars household because he's in Star Wars and now his wife's in Star Wars, and so that was the slip of the fact that the rumors that she's in Ahsoka are true. Oh yeah, of course, Rosario Dawson was in the photo shoot as well as Ahsoka. Completely forgot that she was there for it. I think in my mind, I try and forget that Rosario Dawson is Ahsoka. No offense, Rosario Dawson, but just I really wish that the Ahsoka show was going to be animated and have it be Ashley Eckstein again, but that's fine. And that does bring me on to something actually that I wanted to talk about, which is that I do think it's a bit disappointing in the article that there's literally no mention about the animation side of things beyond the Rebels and Clone Wars being relevant to Kenobi. I felt it was just, animation is just as valid of an avenue for Star Wars to explore down, and they have Bad Batch Season 2 is coming at some point. You've got Star Wars Visions, which rumors are still abound that we are going to get a second season of Star Wars Visions. You've got a unannounced animation show that the Kleiner brothers mentioned that they were composing for. Kleiner brothers are the ones who do Rebels and Clone Wars and Bad Batch as the music. So, there's a bunch of different animation projects that I was like, well, that's also the future of Star Wars on television. Can we not just pretend that those don't exist because we're focusing on live action? Like, I get that it's about the photo shoot largely in that, but, it's a valid art form.
Did you mention Tales of the Republic?
Tales of the Jedi? No.
Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, that article doesn't mention that either, which is, again, I'd forgotten that had even been announced, to be honest, because it was, leaked, and then I think they're going to be talking about it very soon, though, because Celebration is this weekend, I think, so, I think it's due, because the leak was the fact that they were going to be talking about it during Celebration on one of the panels, which is, I think, this week, so hopefully next episode we'll know more about it, but because we did talk about it on a previous podcast, but so there's just a lot of cool stuff, but as I say, it is a bit of a shame that animation kind of got shafted, which is unfortunately the norm for animation, is that it's not taken as seriously because it's for kids.
The kids, yeah.
I also didn't love, I do want to stress here that I think that the way that these articles are written means that this is not necessarily what Kathleen Kennedy meant, because they then add subtext to the quote that they're taking from her. But there is a bit in the article that people talked about where she refers to the lessons learnt from Solo And then there's another quote of hers saying that, you know, it's difficult to just recast these actors who've played these characters, and then that's to go on to talk about the deepfake technology with Luke. Those quotes are broken up. They could be from two completely separate statements, and then obviously the writers are adding subtext that might not have necessarily been what Kathleen Kennedy intended, but the way it reads is them basically saying Solo failed because of bloody Alden Ehrenreich, which they're presumably not saying the same about Donald Glover, because the Lando series is still slated to be a thing featuring Donald Glover. But Alden Ehrenreich was great in Solo. I get it. He's no Harrison Ford, but for what they gave him, which was to play a younger Han Solo, he did great. And I think it's a shame to low-key imply that he did a shit job. He didn't do a shit job at all.
No, I agree. And also it's kind of, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to assume because he took the job that kind of refreshing to have an actor play Han Solo that actually likes the character.
Fair, yeah.
But I just kind of want to go back to the animation thing actually, because it's so mad to me, especially with like how animation has gone recently. Obviously, there's been, you know, like adult animations for years and years and years now. I mean, looking back at things like South Park and Family Guy and stuff, like, but I guess they are kind of targeted to a very specific audience, like the people that actually, you know, like that type of thing, you know, whereas I guess Star Wars, it is definitely becoming, or has become, way more widespread and you know, has a much larger fan base than when it originally came out. You know, like for a long time it was just for nerds and whatever, but now, you know, you can see any type of person walking down the street with like a Baby Yoda backpack or something, you know, or just,
and then you grab them by the throat and say, "Tell me what Baby Yoda's species is," and if they go, "Oh, I don't know," you're like, they haven't confirmed it. That's why you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Love just assaulting people and gatekeeping them on the Star Wars community.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best thing to do.
It's my favorite pastime.
That's the first thing you learn as a Star Wars fan. But yeah, like it's so crazy to me because stuff like Star Wars animation, like Clone Wars and stuff, I think it is, like, as you said, people still view it as something for kids. And what's so mad to me about that is a lot of the people that I think probably view it that way are the same types of people that will watch any Disney film, like any Disney animation, and they'll be like really interested in like all these princesses and stuff, and like, and then you actually like, I mean, if you like that type of stuff, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to call you out for it, but I feel like that is such a base form of animation. Like those films don't really, I feel, don't really have like much different from each other, and they're all very samey, and it's pretty much the same premise, just like a different character basically. And like some films are really good, like I'll give them that, but a lot of the Disney ones especially, I find it very hard to stomach the fact that people will more than happily watch those films where it's pretty much the same thing over and over again, but will then say that something like Clone Wars is something for kids and write it off completely, when it probably has much more depth nuance than any of the stuff they watch.
It's interesting. I haven't actually thought about this before, but as you were saying that, I was trying to think, well, there are some depth to some Disney animated films, and then every single film I thought of where I was like, oh, that's got depth to it, I went, oh, actually, that's Pixar. So yeah, which, you know, again, like it doesn't, and I'm sure that someone might go, well, the Disney princess films do have depth. Some I'm sure you're right, but it's fairly minimal, and also TV format's always going to have more time to explore their characters and such. Like, you know, Clone Wars tells a story over many years with characters growing up and changing, but also the other thing that I would say is I don't even dislike the idea that Clone Wars is made for kids, because it is made for kids. Star Wars is a kids franchise first and foremost. What I dislike is it being said in a derogatory way of, oh, it's not worth your time then. When you know,
it's fine if it's for kids. Like, just because it is specifically made for kids doesn't mean that it doesn't appeal to a larger audience. And I mean, like,
Harry
a lot
Potter
of the
is
Disney
made for
films.
kids. Harry Potter is made for kids. Lord of the Rings is kind of made for kids. The Hobbit is definitely made for kids. Like, you know, and all of Marvel is technically made for kids. Most of DC is made for kids, although I say most, obviously they do like to play their edgelord 15 plus films. But but ultimately DC Comics is more than not is for kids. So
I mean, I think a great example of kind of a definitely made for kids film, but then like everyone loves, is Shrek. And because it does something, it does something way more than a lot of movies does. So a lot of like children's movies, because obviously it is made for kids, but because it's for kids, they have to bring their parents along, because it's the parents that are going to take them there. They usually put in jokes for the parents and stuff, you know? And like,
I would say
usually there's
Shrek's
only
almost funnier as a mature adult than it is as a kid.
Exactly. Like, they put in so many like jokes and stuff that you can only really understand as an adult, that it is like, it's perfect for all audiences.
But not just that as well, going on a tangent on Shrek, but Shrek is great as well, and I didn't realize this until I was probably 19 or so, is that Shrek as a franchise is a kind of decoding and a breakdown of Disney animation movies. Like, it's the entire thing is this kind of analysis, and it's quite introspective about all these things that we're putting out to the world and we're telling our children and such like, and it's kind of fascinating. And I believe I was watching a video yesterday a couple of years ago. I can't remember the name or who made it, unfortunately, but I'm sure you can probably find it, where it was like, I believe that Shrek was made by a group of people who quit Disney animation and were basically pissed off at Disney, and so decided to go and make a film that was like a scathing fuck you at Disney. And all of that is stuff that you absolutely do not pick up on as a child. So, yeah.
But, yeah, like, I genuinely think from now on, if I tell someone that there's like an animated series they should watch, and they say, you know, don't really like animation, it's kind of for kids or something like that, I'm just gonna say, do you like Shrek? And if they say yes, because everyone fucking likes Shrek, there is no way in hell anyone says no to that. If they say yes, I'm just gonna say it's like Shrek. Like, no matter if the premise or,
well, it's all like Shrek, because all the animation that we love, it has layers, so it's just like Shrek.
Exactly. Like, it can have a totally different premise and concept, but ultimately something like Clone Wars has that, you know, depth and nuance. Like Shrek, it has layers, and I think that's a pretty good way of getting someone interested, actually.
Have you heard, by the way, that Mike Myers recently said that he would love to do Shrek until the day he dies, or something along those lines?
Yeah, he'd love to do a Shrek once a year.
Yeah, that's great. Also, I had to quickly just double check that his name was Mike Myers. I was like, I'm 99% sure it's Mike Myers, but I was about to call him Michael Myers. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, no. So I you know, and again, I don't know what the scope is of this Vanity Fair article. It might have been very specifically that the author of the article was told to write an article about the people who were there for the photo shoot, which you're not going to bring in the 3D models of the Bad Batch for a photo shoot. I mean, you could. It'd be a bit gimmicky, but you could do that theoretically. But, like, I get it. But also, it's like, yeah, if your article is about the future of Star Wars and the future of Star Wars and television, then it should include all of Star Wars and television, in my opinion. And likewise, if it's just about live action, then make your article very explicitly about the live action future of Star Wars. The other thing that
what I think they should have done was just brought in Tamura Morrison for a photo shoot all by himself, where he's just playing every single clone, Boba Fett, Django.
I mean, they should have done that, but then have some of them be D. Bradley Baker, even though he looks nothing like the clones. It should be a little bit
or just have him standing in the background, just smiling.
Have him as Jeans guy.
Eugene's guy, yeah. The
Um,
most infamous Star Wars character.
Yeah. But yeah, and the other things the article confirmed is Mando season 3 is going to air late this year or early next year, which was kind of expected, but it's nice to see that in pen and paper by someone who's been told to write like an official article for Disney. And Ahsoka, I believe, is scheduled for next year, if memory serves. I think I might have written that after the article actually of like the little things that we picked up on. Let me scroll up in our chat. Yeah, Ahsoka next year. Acolyte doesn't have a set release window, but it's still being worked on. There's a little bit of information about what Acolyte might entail. And then they also...
I've got to say, I am surprised that Ahsoka's releasing after Mando, potentially.
I'm not really. I think Mando Season 3 is going to set up the galaxy stuff, and Ahsoka's going to set up the Thrawn stuff, and then Mando Season 4 might be the kind of bringing it all together sort of thing, is my guess. But they also confirmed that they are planning to go back to movies eventually, but they're moving away from the Skywalker saga, and instead they're focusing on the galaxy as a whole, but they're keeping the core message of Star Wars, which is that Star Wars is about family, which... I've seen many people meme on that quote with Vin Diesel. But yeah, they're right. Star Wars is ultimately about family, and if you think about the two anthology films, and Mandalorian is also about family, Bad Batch is about family, Clone Wars is about family, Rebels is about family, but specifically if you want to do the two anthology films, Solo is about found family, him and Chewbacca finding each other and becoming basically brothers, and as well as him trying to reconnect with Kira. And then Rogue One is very much about, well, a very core part of it is Jyn and her father. So I do think that that's fair to say that the entirety of the franchise is ultimately about family. Funnily enough, the concept I have for a Star Wars film, if I one day got to pitch one, which I won't, but if I did, is also very much about family. So I was like, yes, I got it right.
See, I wouldn't. I mean, if I had to make a, not had to, but if I was going to make a Star Wars film...
You're forced at gunpoint to make a Star Wars film.
Yeah, if someone just came up to me and they were like, you better fucking make this movie or I swear to God I'll blow your fucking brains out, then...
Fine, I guess.
I would, in a heartbeat, just make a movie solely on a villain, on a Sith. And, like, there wouldn't be any family in it. It would literally just be, like, basically his downfall. I mean, it's basically Revan. Like, I just want to make a Revan movie, but it would just focus on like his downfall and then just like.
But, and this is film studies 101 coming in here. Isn't a film about the Sith, and specifically if you wanted to do it about Revan, inherently about the lack of family and what that does to a person?
I mean, I guess, and also if you had, oh God.
Can you tell why I got a first in every single one of my essays?
I didn't, but that's because I didn't try. But,
neither did I. I'm just very, very good at writing essays and bullshitting.
Oh, to be fair, no, that's a lie. I think I got a first in my essay about the transformation or evolution of Batman and Superman. But like that was because I was actually interested in the topic and was pretty much just writing it because I wanted to. But
I got first in literally every essay I ever wrote, including many that I wrote the day before. But I think the advantage I had over basically everyone else in my course at uni was that when I went to college and studied film at college, my lecturer in college, like, the biggest thing he taught us was how to specifically write essays for film. So I came in with like really high standard of essay writing before anyone else had that standard. So
yeah.
And my lecturer for that subject loved me. For theory, loved me. So.
But yeah, I mean, I guess even a movie about Revan, yeah, it would kind of be about family. Even if you just had like I'm still blanking on his name. His apprentice Malik, yeah. Even if you had Malik, like they were together for so long, even as Jedi, you know, that they basically kind of became brothers, except not because Malik just like, fuck you, I'm becoming the master. But I mean, as the Sith do, you know. I mean, same thing with Obi and Anakin, I suppose. So, but yeah, I definitely want to focus on a villain.
Huh?
It would just be so much more fun, I think.
I don't want to tell you what my pitch is while we're recording the podcast because someone might steal it. But I'm happy to tell you off podcast. But yeah, so they said that they will be going back to films eventually, but they will not be Skywalker Saga for any time in the foreseeable future, but they will be fundamentally the same themes. The other thing that they confirmed is at one point Kathleen Kennedy gave a quote about the Rian Johnson trilogy and confirmed that it is still greenlit. It's just that he's been very busy with the Knives Out franchise over at Netflix. So for everyone going, oh, well, we haven't heard anything about it, must mean that it's cancelled. Apparently not. So, which...
I'm quite excited to see his trilogy, because like I really did like The Last Jedi. Like, I mean, it was better than Force Awakens for me.
The Last Jedi, for me, I've always maintained it takes very big swings, and for me, pretty much all of the big swings hit. The thing that doesn't hit for me is that the film also feels like it's kind of meeting its obligations of being a franchise movie, which it is. And so all of the stuff that isn't taking big swings is kind of lackluster. So everyone's talked about it ad infinitum, but the Finn and Rose stuff is pretty shit, in my opinion. But pretty much everything,
definitely.
But pretty much everything with Luke and Rey and Kylo is great. And I even quite like Poe's subplot. And I do think that it's completely valid to criticize the film and say that, you know, they should have found something worthwhile for these other characters to do. Absolutely fair. I also think if you don't like some of the directions they took, absolutely fair. But I think that for me, it all worked really, really well, that stuff. And I think what does suck, but again, I really want to go and rewatch all of the sequel trilogy to see how it feels when I watch it back to back. But at the moment, how it feels is that it's very disjointed from the rest of the trilogy.
That's what I was going to say. But I mean,
but
that's
also
the thing.
Rise of Skywalker is very disjointed from the Last Jedi, and they could have very easily made it not disjointed from the Last Jedi. So it's as much J.J. Abrams' fault as it is Rian Johnson's fault that the Last Jedi feels disjointed, in my opinion.
Like, I genuinely think that. I mean, I can't say exactly for J.J. Abrams, because I didn't particularly like The Force Awakens, but I think if I went back and watched it again, I'd probably have
It's fine.
Better opinion of it.
It's like it's middle tier, unoffensive, but also not particularly interesting. Like, as much as I think Attack of the Clones is a much worse movie, Attack of the Clones has a lot more to say than The Force Awakens, in my opinion. It just doesn't go particularly well.
I think if either director just had the full trilogy to themselves, I think either one would have done an incredible job.
Yeah.
But I think because they got that, because they got Rian Johnson in for the second film, you're right, it was very disjointed, and I feel like he very much came on and was like, okay, so I have to kind of deal with the stuff that J.J. Abrams has already set up, but also I'm going to totally ignore that and just do my own version anyway. And like the stuff that he actually put in, bar the Rose and Finn stuff, like I really like the direction he was going, especially with Kylo. I think it was such an interesting like path they were going to take him down of being like, fuck, the Sith, or
when that trailer dropped, and I was like, he's gonna go Grey Jedi, and I'm so fucking hyped for Grey Jedi. And then it didn't happen, which is a bit of a shame. But I still like the direction they took him in, regardless, by the end of the film. But
like I think it would have been so much more interesting if J.J. Abrams didn't back down out of that and actually just be like, nah, I'm just gonna double down. Like, if because we haven't really seen that before. We haven't seen a character that literally just goes, I'm done with all of this.
The closest we've had is Ahsoka, and even she she goes, "Oh, I'm not a Jedi." You feel quite Jedi to me though, Ahsoka. Still, you're like, "Oh, I'm just." It's like someone who's like, "I'm not Christian anymore." It's like, yeah, but you still believe in God and you still believe in Jesus. So okay, I guess you just don't go to church. Is that what you're saying to me right now? Like,
Yeah.
like Ahsoka very much is still a Jedi. She's just like, I'm not a Jedi though.
But I mean, I think what would have been even more incredible if they did it was if they then had Rey do the same thing.
Yeah,
And they
no.
actually became like a duo that, instead of just trying to relive the cycle, instead wanted to usher in a new age of like balance, like the Force is meant to be.
At the same time,
I think that would have been really cool.
I think that Luke's take on the Jedi, when he comes around and decides that the Jedi should still be a thing, is also really interesting, and I really like that. I think what would have been pretty cool, and I don't want to get too close to like just fan rewriting films, because I don't particularly like it's a fun exercise, but I don't particularly like being like, oh, this is what they should have done, sort of thing. But I think it would have been kind of cool if they'd maybe had Rey and Kylo join up and go do their own thing, but then Luke's like, I can sense darkness still, like, this isn't going to work out, there's going to be too much temptation, etc., etc., and he decides that actually the Jedi do need to come back because he can see something in the future. Maybe he can sense that Palpatine's coming back, and without the Jedi to stop them, these two who are kind of not doing either, they're not going to be enough. And then he trains Finn. That would have been pretty cool, because Finn's 100% Force sensitive. Like,
yeah, I mean, that would have been pretty cool. Alternatively, what I would have liked is if even Luke was kind of the one, and it would play into the fact that, he just chucked the lightsaber away and whatever and was bitter and everything. I think it would have been interesting if he had somewhat of a change of heart, like seeing Rey and Kylo and kind of like thinking about his actions and how that affected Kylo and put it into perspective, because he had those absolutes, like he was like, I sense darkness, therefore this child needs to die. I think if he then turned round and was like, actually, I don't think either thing works. Like, maybe Kylo could have said that to Rey, and then Rey goes back to Luke and she's like, I'm so confused, I'm so conflicted, I don't know what to do, blah blah blah, and like explain the situation. And then Luke thought about it all and literally was just like, just do what you feel, basically, like he said to Grogu, like, just do what you feel. Like, maybe they don't work, because the only reason that he ended up beating the Emperor in the end was because Darth Vader, like, I don't think Darth Vader properly returned to the light at the end. People say that, and I don't agree with that. It was like, at that point he became balanced, right? And I think the only reason that Luke survived that fight was because Darth Vader became balanced. And I think if he took that sort of thing on board and then, looked at his errors and the errors of like both sides, I think it would have been interesting to then have him be the one to say, okay, neither one works, do what you think is best, follow your own, path, and, whatever happens, basically. And I think that would have been an interesting concept, to see Rey and Kylo go their own way and try and bring balance in a way that we've not seen before.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think we are kind of on the same page though, which is that Rian Johnson had a bunch of cool ideas, and yeah, maybe he should have played a little bit nicer with J.J. Abrams' vision from The Force Awakens, but also J.J. Abrams should have played much nicer with Rian Johnson's vision from The Last Jedi. It's also weird though, again, I'm going to rewatch the trilogy at some point, but it feels like J.J. Abrams' vision from Rise of Skywalker is also different from his vision from Force Awakens, and it doesn't feel like that's just because The Last Jedi is in between them. It also feels like maybe he changed his mind about some stuff, particularly with Rey being a nobody. But
I think as with Rian Johnson, I think if JJ had all three movies and he actually had the time to sit and plan it out and everything, I also don't think that people would have disliked Rise of Skywalker as much as they did.
Because I think Rise of Skywalker is entertaining. That's the thing. Like, I remember coming out of the cinema and going, that was fun. But as a satisfying end to both a trilogy and a saga, it didn't hit the mark for me. And again, that might change on a rewatch with more introspection, but it didn't deliver what I wanted it to deliver. But in terms of just fun, it was fun. Like, it was really fun. It was, there's some great standout moments that feel peak Star Wars to me in that film. But,
And I like, obviously the biggest reason people like didn't like it as much was because of the Palpatine thing, because he just returned out of nowhere. I think if he had the trilogy and he could like drop some hints in the second film and like work it in a bit better and not just have it be like somehow Palpatine's returned, I think people would have like appreciated that more.
The thing is, 100% we're going to get that expanded upon. That my theory for where the Star Wars TV shows are going, and I know I've said this before to you, probably said it before in the podcast, is we're getting a loose adaptation of the Admiral Thrawn trilogy, but specifically about trying to create the clones of Palpatine. That's what it's going to end up being, but it's going to use a lot of elements from the Admiral Thrawn trilogy, is my theory, because we've already seen a bunch of it already kind of pop up in various media. So we'll probably get that expanded, and that might also make Rise of Skywalker end up being more satisfying, is when we know a little bit more about it. But I think that there's, again, I don't want to go into the let's rewrite the movies, but there's one big thing that I would have changed, but it would have taken zero effort to change. So they don't need to reshoot anything. They don't need to re-record anything. It's just literally a change in the edit that would have made it 10 times better for me. Which is, in Rise of Skywalker, we have, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we have the opening crawl, and then, I don't know, like 15 minutes into the film or whatever, Poe Dameron says somehow Palpatine has returned. It's established in the opening crawl he's returned, and that there was like some big broadcast sent out across the galaxy, but this is like the official in-universe us being told it is Poe Dameron saying somehow he returned, we don't know, blah, 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 blah. And the audio of that broadcast is recorded, and you can find it if you Google Palpatine broadcast Fortnite, because they released it in an in-game Fortnite event, which I don't inherently hate, except I do hate the fact that it's not in the film anywhere.
Yeah.
Very simple fix. Don't do the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Don't do the opening crawl. Start the film on a black screen. Have Ian McDiarmid's frankly amazing voice performance that he always fucking nails doing that broadcast on a black screen. And then towards the end of it, fade into a planet, I guess fade into, Kylo Ren landing on Mustafar, which is the beginning of the film. It would have been completely different to any other Star Wars intro, even different to the two anthology films at that point, which are, not the normal opening crawl stuff, but it's not quite that. And you would have been like, oh shit, this is different. And yes, it's different because it's the final film in the Skywalker saga, but instead it's the same intro as every other Skywalker saga film, which also, I've always been suspicious that they're going to do another Skywalker trilogy at some point, and they're going to completely redo the marketing and be like, oh no, this is the final entry in the Skywalker saga in like 20 years time. But, if they actually wanted this to be the final one, do it. And that would have been a way to be like, this is different, and this is how we're like, and that would have, to me, still wouldn't have been perfect, but that would have just made it so much better to me, is just hearing that broadcast and it being different and having a change of pace to what we were expecting.
I do like the idea of the black screen with the broadcast, but also I maybe this would have given too much away of, where he is or what was going on, but I think it also would have been cool if it showed like some of like the empty halls or like, just the open space of Exegol. And then like it slowly just kind of like move in just on like the side of Palpatine's face as he's giving the broadcast, like just towards the very end, and then just have like lightning strike to light it up, and then go into the film. Like I think it would have been like really cool just to kind of be like, oh, okay, so he's like fucked up, like he's in like next level sort of shit, like he's in this really fucking weird place. Like, where is this? It kind of builds up that tension of like, okay, where is he? How did he get here? Why does he look like this type of thing? And then have like, him talking later on about how he survived and whatever. I think that would have worked really well as well.
Yeah. But in conclusion, I'm excited to see Ryan Johnson helm an entire trilogy to himself. I do kind of hope it's a bit smaller scale. I think the way he did The Last Jedi makes me think that a smaller scale, less epic Star Wars film would suit the sort of filmmaking that he wants to do within Star Wars. I might be completely wrong about that. He might go like, no, fuck no, I want to do a massive blockbuster. But it felt like he wanted to do something more introspective and contemplative. And I think that if they let him do that and not try and make it this big blockbuster, I mean, obviously it's going to be blockbuster to a certain point, but like, yeah, I think that will be neat. Anyways, that's the future of Star Wars.
Yeah.
That wasn't natural, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Secret Invasion.
I'm glad we did that one first.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be the big one. All right, Secret Invasion, let's go.
Okay, so there was an article on Bleeding Cool that confirms that, or that says that Kevin Feige confirmed that Secret Invasion takes place during the Blip.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this raises a very huge question, as the article says, because obviously Secret Invasion is basically going to be Nick Fury and Talos, who was the Skrull that was portraying Nick Fury while Nick Fury's up in space doing whatever he's doing, having a vacation.
Doing sword stuff.
Yeah. And obviously we saw that Nick Fury got blipped. So if he got blipped and this is set during the blip, how is Nick Fury there?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been trying to think about it, and I have no fucking idea, other than maybe it was Talos that got blipped, maybe, instead of Nick Fury, but then Talos is also in the show, so how could he have been blipped?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that theory that, like, it's Talos who got blipped, and therefore it's just going to be Nick Fury, but we've got it confirmed that Ben Mendelsohn will be in the show as Talos. I think the more likely thing is probably real Nick Fury got blipped, which would also explain why he specifically had the beeper for Captain Marvel. Even if you got a body double, bit weird to give them the like your supposed like ace in the hole.
Yeah.
But and then have maybe Talos take on the Nick Fury identity, so it doesn't feel like the world has lost Nick Fury. But then so you have obviously Samuel L. Jackson playing Talos as Nick Fury, and then you have Ben Mendelsohn playing Talos as Talos. But that still raises a question for me, which is, I don't think it's been explicitly said, but the vibe I got from Avengers Endgame at the very least is that Nick Fury was known to be snapped. So whatever Nick Fury is doing during the snap in this show is presumably flying under the radar of the leftover Avengers, because otherwise wouldn't he be wouldn't they go like, yo, can you help us, coach? Sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even if you say, oh well, maybe they didn't know that he was blipped, but I mean, he sent out that message to Captain Marvel, and I'm pretty sure she'd realize pretty quick that he's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, she'd probably find the beeper and be like, that's covered in dust.
Yeah, it wouldn't be difficult for her to tell. So yeah, I'm kind of confused how they're gonna go about this. I hope they didn't just straight up forget. It would be unlike Marvel to do that, but I mean, there's always the first, I suppose.
I mean, it could also theoretically be that they're like, it wasn't really Nick Fury, it was a Skrull, it just wasn't Talos. Which would also be weird, but it would make sense.
Nick Fury just has shit tons of body doubles. Turns out we've never actually seen the real Nick Fury.
It's the episode
apart from in Captain Marvel.
It's the episode of Rick and Morty where they had to deal with the body doubles because their body doubles have gone rogue, but then you don't know
Yeah.
which one, and it's body doubles all around the world.
Yeah.
It's just that with Nick Fury.
But
Maybe.
like I'm excited for this series because I think it is opening up. I mean, is it opening up? Because it's a series, sure. Obviously, we don't know
It's a
how long.
6-episode event.
6-episode event.
It's the way that they keep on marketing these 6-episode shows.
I like the fact that we're getting Secret Invasion, but a 6-episode event. Like, Secret Invasion is a big fucking deal. Like, because that leads me to believe, like, oh, actually, the Skrulls, you know, weren't actually
Good.
taking over, like, the, you know, like, I'm assuming it's just going to be like a sect of Skrulls, you know, that kind of decided they wanted to take over the world or whatever. But obviously, the big thing about Secret Invasion in the comics is that it was found out that they were basically a lot of the superheroes that were going on, you know, at the time. And so now I'm like, it's a 6-episode event. I feel like this is such a big thing to cover in just like 6 episodes. It will feel a little bit shitty to me if we find out that some of the superheroes we've come to know and love were actually Skrulls, and the whole thing just gets like just covered in 6 short episodes.
I mean, I guess theoretically it could be a season 1 sort of situation where, you know, there's nothing stopping them from doing multiple seasons if it's set during a blip, because we're not going to have you have 5 years worth of storytelling to do. So, you know, you could do that across multiple seasons without it starting to affect present day MCU. But also, I'm kind of questioning whether they will do the lots of superheroes were actually Skrulls, because then you need to bring in the actors of those superheroes, which becomes very expensive, even if it's for a cameo. So it's like, you know, and then you go like, who would even work to be a Skrull at this point in the MCU? Like,
yeah,
you can't really do Spider-Man. You can't. I guess you could do Bucky or Sam, but both of those would feel kind of shitty after Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I think it would. I genuinely think anyone that they chose to do that with, it would feel shitty.
They could maybe do it with Rhodey, as long as the show comes out before Armor Wars. I feel like that's like the one guy that they could maybe do, because he was kind of a bit of a backbencher until Infinity War. Well, I guess he came back into the limelight in Infinity War. Did he get dusted? He did get dusted, didn't he?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's the thing. They could do dusted superheroes a little bit more easily, couldn't they? But then it doesn't have any impact, because they unless it's Skrulls pretending to be the superheroes who got dusted, so that the world doesn't know that they got dusted. That could kind of be interesting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I could go for that, but yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm very excited, but I am very, very skeptical. Okay, tell me your big brain idea.
I've worked out who was a Skrull.
Okay.
Hawkeye. It's the only way that fucking mohawk makes sense.
Wouldn't.
Well, that too.
Oh.
But it's the only way that mohawk makes fucking sense, as if it was an alien.
As a mohawk lover, I love the mohawk, but I can understand why some people wouldn't.
It's a rat-tailed mohawk. It's just bad. It's a mullet mohawk. It's just bad. Honestly, if the back was sorted out, I'd be absolutely fine with it, other than it looks a bit weird on that aged man who does not... Like, I don't know how old Jeremy Renner is, but he looks about 60 in the face. He has looked about 60 in the face for the last 15 years, so... And I'm pretty sure he's not 60 yet, but he's just got an old face.
But, yeah, I'm very confused about this, because if they actually don't go the superhero actually being Skrulls route, I don't know if I care enough about them just taking over regular people.
What if? Yeah, what if?
Season 2.
Yeah. What if it's they maybe bring in some of the characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because they are bringing over but we'll get to it. But they're definitely doing Netflix stuff now. People have asked for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to have some form of like legitimacy in the MCU properly.
Who fucking cares? It's shit.
But you could do things like Coulson as a Skrull.
I mean,
and that would at least have a little bit more impact than just hoi polloi citizens.
I feel like that, like, oh god, I hope it isn't Coulson. I mean,
It would explain how they did a dead Coulson as well, potentially, as if either real Coulson did die and it's been a Skrull Coulson ever since, or Skrull Coulson died in Avengers and it's been real Coulson ever since.
Well, they explored that all in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, but
and
we
they
also
did multiple things with Coulson.
But we also don't know if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually canon.
I mean,
because if it is, I don't know a lot about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I know that they meet Hydra, and Hydra is like some ancient elder god squid face monster.
Nick Fury was also in like an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, like the first episode, right?
I really fucking hope that it isn't canon. Simply for the fact, and I never thought I would defend time travel, simply for the fact, and I guess this is still another major gripe for me with time travel if this is
Major
canon. But we are led to believe in Infinity War or Endgame even that, Tony cracked time travel, right? And helped along by Bruce afterwards. It was a big thing, It was a massive thing that they had managed to crack time travel.
It was so big he did it in one day.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he already created a brand new element in one day, to be fair. I'm not sure why I'm criticizing his fucking big brain genius level Tony Stark has.
And also, my boy Scott contributed some of his knowledge about the quantum realm.
True.
But in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they just time travel. Just these shitty little agents that aren't even a part of a proper organization anymore because it just didn't even really exist.
But what if Steve traveled back in time and gave them time travel before Avengers Endgame when he was doing his stones?
No. Just no. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, they didn't cover the blip in that show. I
think it ended before Endgame, before Infinity War, right?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Actually, I don't know. But either way, the time travel thing just.
Yeah, that's after Infinity War. Infinity War's like 18, isn't it?
I think so. Round about that, yeah. So yeah, like it can't be in my eyes, like because it completely removes any sense of urgency from Endgame for me because they literally had to create time travel to try and fix their universe.
Unless they all got blipped or were all Skrulls and now they're not Skrulls. In which case they all lost time travel.
Oh, I don't know. It gets so fucking confusing.
What if there's a deleted scene in Endgame where the way that Tony worked out time travel in one day is he just broke into wherever S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters were at that point and just found it on a whiteboard and was like, I'm going to claim all of the credit.
I mean,
Tony Stark feels a bit of an Elon Musk character sometimes in the MCU. That's very Elon Musk, is just finding someone else's work and pretending it's yours. So,
I mean, to be fair, the Endgame characters didn't share their time travel with anyone else. So potentially someone in the future could also have created time travel and then travel back in time travel,
basically, hasn't he?
I mean, yeah, I guess. And then, so I guess the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., some fucking reason, ended up also being able to time travel because of something else that people in the future did that wasn't Tony and Bruce and Scott. But, I mean, even still, like, you see them time travel before the fucking Endgame characters, and it's like, well, it's not really anything special then, is it?
But you also saw Doctor Strange time travel in 2016 in his solo movie.
Did he?
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but That's different. That's using the Eye of Agamotto. But yeah, I don't know. It's very confusing to me. I'm excited to see where they're actually going to take it. But yeah, as I said, highly skeptical of if it's actually going to be good depending on what they do.
And this, I think, leads us very nicely into Daredevil, because I'm also feeling a very similar way about Daredevil. It's weird, and I've seen a lot of people criticize Daredevil fans recently because of this reaction, and I think the criticisms were valid as well. But everyone's been going, save Daredevil since 2018. Well, not everyone. Daredevil fans have been doing that since 2018. I know I was doing it, and then they brought him back in Spider-Man, and people were like, hey! And then they haven't officially announced, it's leaked, but a credible source, that they're beginning work on a Disney Plus Daredevil show, and lots of fans have gone, ooh. It's like, well, this is what we've been asking for, but also, ooh. And I think what it is it's a mixture of a couple of things for me. First of all, to me, Daredevil, and I don't mean this in a hyperbolic, I'm a big fan of the character way, I mean this on a filmic level. Daredevil is pretty close to peak superhero content. It's up there for me with the Batman and the Dark Knight. Not all of Daredevil, but overall Daredevil, particularly season 3, it's right up there with them. And so I then compare that to what we've been getting just in general from Marvel. Even if you just look at the MCU as a whole, the MCU has never reached that peak to me. In terms of enjoyment, frequently hit that peak. Spider-Man No Way Home, Endgame, those sorts of things. But in terms of filmic level of just depth and care and just creativity, nowhere near. And the Netflix Marvel shows, very, very wibbly wobbly, but when they're great, they're fucking amazing. So Daredevil, Punisher, I know you don't love it, but Jessica Jones season 1 is all really, really good, and just feels like creators got the ability to just do what they wanted to do. And one downside being they had to do it in 13 episodes, and frequently it felt like they ran out of story content around about the 10 episode mark. So pretty much all of the Netflix Marvel shows, the best episode from them is the one before the finale. Which is just because the finale, they have to meet their contractual obligations. But even then, they haven't felt as bad as the Disney Plus finales to me, where Loki's a pretty great finale, Falcon Winter Soldier's an alright finale. The others, frankly, the finales have been kind of crap, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I'll give What If a pass, actually. What If is kind of, I keep that in a different category just because it's not as constant storytelling, it's more episodic. So
yeah,
and so I'm just I'm not sure. It's that case of I don't know if I want more Daredevil if you're not going to be able to live up to the hype. And
especially because it's probably also going to be 6 episodes.
It's probably going to be 6 episodes, which, to be fair, if the story they want to tell is 6 episodes long, then go for it. But
Won't be.
But I'm really worried, basically, that it's going to be 6 episodes long, which will be, if they end up doing multiple seasons, then I'll be fine with it. But I don't just want 6 more episodes of Daredevil. I'd rather have nothing at all at that point, just because it's perfect the way it is. Not perfect, 9.9 out of 10, the way it is. But also, it's just, I guess I'm worried about tone. You don't have to do ultra violence to do Daredevil. I genuinely think you could. Punisher, you probably need more or less the ultra violence that you have in the Netflix Marvel stuff. I'm not sure you can do.
Please keep the ultra violence.
Yeah, but Daredevil, you frankly could do it in a way that didn't feature people's heads getting beheaded by doors, or people being hanged on meat hooks, or Frank Castle pulling a razor blade out of a slit in his wrist. You can probably get away with not having that stuff. What I would like, if they're going to try and make it more family friendly, is basically do what the Mandalorian does and have all of that be implied but not physically on screen. So, okay, you can have someone's head get cut off by a door, but we don't actually need to see it happen. We can just have Wilson Fisk banging his door, and you start to hear a bit of like sloshing, and then you cut away. So it's just not as gratuitous. I'd be fine with that. So that sort of thing I'm not worried about. It's tone that I'm worried about. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be Hawkeye level of tone, but that's definitely not a good indication of what they did with that character of Kingpin. And people have been like, oh, well, they can do the swashbuckling Daredevil. And I get that swashbuckling Daredevil's got his fans. I fucking hate swashbuckling Daredevil. It's so not Daredevil. I think more so than some other superhero characters, Daredevil's possibly one of the ones that's had the most different takes on him. Because, like, you know how I've commented before that Batman, frequently the movies take from The Dark Knight Returns, and that's like very much like an Elseworlds Batman sort of thing. Frank Miller did Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, and that actually did stick. Like, that actually became more or less who Daredevil was for about 20 years. And then they occasionally try and bring him back to what he was before The Man Without Fear came out. And so you have these two, like, very, very, very different versions of Daredevil. I'm like, I don't want that version of him because that's not Daredevil. It is Daredevil, but it's not the Daredevil I enjoy. It is the, like, super lighthearted Spider-Man light, basically. I don't want that. I want, like, you know, is Disney Plus going to have an entire episode where Matt deals with a crisis of faith? I feel like probably not, especially not in a 6-episode special event. And then you're also going to have the finale where it's like, well, what stupid superhero lasers in the sky finale are they going to be able to do with Daredevil? Basically the Daredevil season 2 finale, I guess. It'll basically just be that. But, like, yeah, I don't know. I've got bad feelings.
I mean, I know what I would like from the transition from Netflix to Disney Plus. I know what I want. I don't think I'm going to get it, and I don't think a lot of other people would want it either. But I personally, I mean, I've wanted this ever since they pretty much released these shows. I want Heroes for Hire. I think there is such a, like, decent, like, basis for that already. And, like, I mean, again, one of the reasons that I really disliked the ending to Luke Cage season 2 was because they didn't go down the Hero for Hire route. Even just as, like, a little thing, you know, I think it would improve my opinion of it so much. And I still really want to see Heroes for Hire. And I feel like if they do, fingers crossed, bring in, like, most of the Netflix characters, as I said, I don't really give a shit about Iron Fist or Jessica Jones, but if they bring them back, cool, whatever, as long as, you know, like, Jessica Jones, I know a lot of people enjoyed that, so whatever, leave that as it is. Iron Fist needs a massive overhaul. But
I still stand by. I think Finn Jones can do it, though.
I'm
not sure whether
totally agree.
I'm not sure whether they're going to give him the chance, but then again, I guess I don't want to say what because spoilers, but they did give a certain actor a second chance recently in a Marvel project, so a character in a recent Marvel film who has played that character before but wasn't well received.
Oh God,
I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I don't want to just.
It is on the tip of my tongue, and I just cannot think.
I'll just put it in the fucking chat because I don't want to say a spoiler alert for Multiverse of Madness just to say like a 5-second thing, but.
Yeah.
So like,
I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah.
So based on that, they could definitely, they could give Finn Jones another chance, and I think he could do it if he was given the chance to actually do the choreography and put the effort in. Supposedly he didn't put the effort in, but also didn't have a lot of time to learn it. So, but if they recast him, though, then whatever.
Obviously, the fighting is a big thing for Iron Fist. I get that. But that wasn't even the issue I had with it. It literally was just the writing and the story they told. Like, I don't think it worked as Iron Fist. They completely got his characterization wrong, and like,
But I
I've
would have
said
loved
this
a show
from the
about Ward
beginning.
Meacham.
I mean, yeah, he was just a pretty good character overall,
Yeah,
really.
exactly. I would have loved just a. Do you remember that show? What was it called? They did a show of, I think it was Selena Gomez or something, which was set in the DC universe, and it was about like someone who worked at Wayne Enterprises, and it was a division ran by Bruce's cousin or something. It was a really weird show that I think they ran for one season or something, but it was just
that
like,
wasn't like the just regular people show, was it?
Yeah, it was literally just like, regular people in the DC universe. It's like, yeah, if they'd just done a drama series set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe about this guy Ward Meacham and his dad's fucked up plots with the Hand, I would have been like, that's fucking cool. Give me that. I'll guzzle that.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, yeah, I said ever since the first day pretty much that I think Finn Jones was a pretty good cast, honestly. I think like he is definitely capable of doing it. I think if he just had the right script and they actually got the characterization right, because like again, we've talked about this a few times before, especially on the podcast, but that one episode in like, what was it, either Luke Cage or the Defenders, where he's just sat chatting with Luke and like they're just having a grand old time, you know, and he's very
Luke
like
about meditation in that
hearted.
episode.
Yeah,
like,
he's like light-hearted, zen, chilled out. He can nail that. That was great. That was the best fucking piece of Iron Fist media I've seen amongst all of the seasons.
And the thing is, if they'd had more time, or if they get to bring him back, I do think that they can do good for him, because I don't inherently hate the concept that sometimes these storytellers do of going, well, let's start not where the character is from the comics and build up to it. So in Iron Fist, we've got this character who is not fit to be the Iron Fist, and he's not zen, and he's arrogant, and he's brash, and he doesn't think things through. And you can tell at the very least by the time of the Defenders, maybe not during the first season of Iron Fist, but by Defenders, the writers had realized that that's where they had written that character, because Stick fucking shits on him constantly for being awful at his job and just being an awful candidate for being the Iron Fist. And so if they had transitioned him into the Iron Fist we know from the comics, that would have been a really cool character arc. Similar sort of thing with Spider-Man not being a particularly great Spider-Man in Homecoming. You know, he's not learnt all of these things, but by the end of No Way Home, you're like, great, that's an awesome character arc. The problem when you do that, though, particularly with actors who have contractual obligations, is going, well, you've used 3 films to do that now. You better give us another trilogy of Tom Holland as Spider-Man where I get to see him be the Spider-Man I want him to be, because otherwise I'm going to be pissed that you wasted 3 films on that. So...
But, I mean, the thing with Iron Fist as well is it's cool if they wanted to go down that route of having him be like a brash asshole who just like isn't chill at all and is very like selfish and just kind of self-indulgent, like, because I mean the first fucking thing that happens when he comes back is, this is my company, why are you like blah blah blah, and like I could get behind that. I still wouldn't like it particularly. I still would prefer the other version of him, but I could get behind that more if they actually showed in, you know, his flashbacks and backstory and everything that he was like that at, you know, Kunlun, you know, but they didn't. And so what was he doing for all those years? He was being taught by monks, like he had no earthly possessions. He was literally trained for being the Iron Fist pretty much, you know, like, or maybe not specifically to be Iron Fist, but, you know, like
a to be Kunlun.
Yeah, exactly. Where did that personality come from? What has he been doing for all of those years? He clearly didn't learn a single fucking thing. And so if they actually showed him being sort of like that throughout his whole childhood, it would make much more sense.
But then it also wouldn't make sense how the monks like put up with him.
Well, exactly. Like,
yeah.
So, but I mean, you know, the alternative to that, which might have worked better, it would work so much better, and it would have been an interesting arc again for him, was if he did come into the series all chill and zenned out and everything, and like all he really wanted was just to sort of, you know, get to know his friends and family that he left behind and everything, have them be major assholes for the same reason that he was being a major asshole in
Which is basically what they did, except for they didn't feel like as much of major assholes because he's a fucking crazy guy walking in sandals going, I own this company. So it's like fair for them to be assholes in that scenario.
But I mean, maybe to begin with, like they could have been a bit skeptical. I think they went way overboard with how awful they were to him. I mean, like one of my biggest gripes going into the second season, which is why I pretty much just didn't bother watching it, was because at the end of the first season, what's his name? Davos?
Yeah.
Davos, like, and the sister, you know, like
they team up to take down Danny.
And Danny didn't do anything wrong to her, realistically. Like, like the whole season, he really didn't do anything. And so when Davos and her were teaming up and she was like, I hate him, like, I was like, but bro, your dad was the villain. Your brother was helping him out for most of the time, albeit he was basically being like mentally abused and manipulated. But like, what the fuck did Danny do? Why'd you hate him? It just seemingly came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And like I felt that the whole way through. I was like, they're being awful for absolutely no reason. And I think if that was like the direction they went, but Danny was zen and chilled out, and then they just started like hurting other people and everything, and him coming to this realization that the stuff that he's known in his childhood, being raised by monks and everything, which is peace and tranquility and protecting, he then comes home to this totally different world where people are just assholes for the sake of being assholes and are willing to hurt others for selfish reasons. Then maybe you could take him down the route of he suddenly becomes less chill and zened out because he's stressed as fuck, because he's like, this is totally new to me. I don't know what to do in this type of world. And so he, starts becoming a bit more arrogant and like maybe just kind of being like just judging everyone, basically, like being like, this is awful, almost just like starting to despise humanity because of all this awfulness that he's seeing around him. And so he becomes a bit more like vitriolic and just kind of like disgusted by what he sees and starts losing his temper a bit more. But then towards the end, he starts seeing the nuance to people and how this world works and everything, and they bring him back to being zen and chill. And then now he has a better understanding of the people around him, the world that he's now in, and also he's had a character arc, a decent one at that. Like, I genuinely don't think it would have been that hard to do either like side of it, either him starting off as an asshole or coming in zen. I think there were so many different options they could have done with him that would have worked perfectly, and they just said, fuck it, we choose none of them. We'll just completely fuck his character, because who gives a shit about Iron Fist? It just frustrates me.
The last thing I want to mention on Daredevil, just because it's something else that people have been talking about, is so they announced in this leak, that's not an official announcement, so it might not be true, but this pretty genuine looking leak, the two writers for the show, and two of the writers who are also going to executive produce. So they haven't been announced as showrunners, they haven't been announced as lead writers, but they've been announced to be on the writing team and executive producers, which implies that they're probably going to be pretty fucking senior in the writing team and probably showrunners. And people have been criticizing this choice because I'm pretty sure like the biggest thing on IMDb is that they were in they wrote a Deck the Halls reboot. And people were like, geez, this is what Disney could drag up, particularly because some of the writing team for Daredevil are going to work on Echo and such like. And I do think that that's maybe not the most fair criticism. I think it's completely valid to say, we wanted Eric Collison back, who showran season 3, because he had plans for a season 4 and season 5. I personally am like, yeah, it would have been awesome to bring him back. I believe he's currently contractually obligated to something else, but I still would be like, it would have been great if you'd gotten him back, or Stephen Tonight from season 1. But we don't know why they couldn't have gotten them. Maybe they reached out to them and couldn't get them, or maybe they just decided they wanted a new direction. I don't think we should judge these writers based on the history. I don't think that's fair, because when you're a writer, You take the gigs you can get to prove that you're a consistently decent writer and open up doors for new opportunities. And you look at a lot of writers and a lot of directors for that matter and what have you. If you look at their early work, it's nothing to write home about until they have that thing that's worth writing home about. So I don't want to just assume that they're going to be shit, and I don't think it's fair to assume that they're going to be shit. At the same time, I do wish that we had. Again, currently, in this announcement that's not an announcement from Disney, there are 2 names attached to the Daredevil project, and that's these 2 writers. We don't even have Charlie Cox's name officially attached to it, although it's going to be him. So, like, you know, it's very early days in terms of who's announced. We might be getting the same stunt coordinators and such like coming back. But ultimately, if you're going to do Daredevil, I want as much of the original cast and crew back as possible. Because otherwise, it's like, if you're going to do even the stunts like in Moon Knight, which were decent in some of the fight scenes, I feel like it's not worth doing Daredevil unless you can do the sorts of stuff that Daredevil was doing in its fight scenes, you know? Because it's just going to feel underwhelming and won't feel like it delivered if they do that. So,
but I mean, yeah, I am gonna get around to watching season 3 of Daredevil. I really need to.
I have a feeling that if, based on how much you liked the Batman and like that very personal journey, Daredevil season 3 is the most personal journey that Matt goes on. It's so fucking good.
And I know you said that, you know, you don't want light-hearted Daredevil or whatever, but like, as I said, I want Heroes for Hire, and I would like Daredevil to be a part of that, and I don't think I would want like grim existential crisis Daredevil.
I mean, I think, honestly, the vibes he put out in The Defenders were kind of perfect, which is that he could joke around, particularly with Jessica Jones, in that show. So if they have that, that's fine. I'm totally fine with, and I would love to see this, Daredevil and Spider-Man interacting on screen, and Daredevil being more lighthearted around this guy who's clearly a kid. Like, even if he doesn't know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, I feel like it's fair to assume from Spider-Man's build and voice that he's young. So I would absolutely love for Daredevil to almost be like a little bit like a jokey older brother to Spider-Man. You could absolutely make that work with the characterization we currently have. What I don't want is, I really don't want us going from Daredevil's, I can't even say what it is because you haven't seen season 3. There's just this vitriolic thing that he says to one of his villains in season 3, and it's just some of the best fucking acting the MCU's ever had. Like, people talk about Robert Downey Jr. being amazing. They talk about fucking Hugh Jackman being amazing. That scene cements Charlie Cox right up there with those characters, those actors. So, like, I don't want that, and then us go to him fighting a villain being like, hey, did your mama make that costume for you? It's like, you know, that's Spider-Man, not Daredevil, although it is Daredevil in some comics, but, like, no, can't do that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Like, yeah, and I wouldn't want that either, but I think for me, it's like, if they are gonna bring back more Netflix shows than just Daredevil, and obviously I'm thinking specifically about Punisher.
You finally said it. We haven't said it at all.
It's been at the back of my mind this whole time, thinking about how I get onto it.
And anyone who's watched our podcast before knows this. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it is a great time to sort of have a shift in characters. So, like, you know, I feel like the stuff that we've seen on Netflix is very much the beginning of the characters. I mean, obviously, because it goes into the backstories and origins and stuff. And I think bringing it in with, like, within the main MCU and having them be able to interact with different characters and bring in new people, I think it's a great time to be able to go a step further and sort of do something new with the characters. I mean, you know, like with the Punisher, for example, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore first and second season. The only thing that I like want from Punisher or didn't get necessarily in those first 2 seasons is him literally just being brutal and killing criminals simply because his life is a war. Like, it is very much been focused on him getting over his family. Well, not getting over, but you know, like getting revenge on the people that played a part in his family's death. Like, that's cool. I've seen that now. I don't care. Like, I just want to see Punisher going up against criminals and villains simply because they are criminals and villains, and I want to see him like no holds barred.
And we got little hints of that, which were fun. Like, I really, really enjoyed the scene where he has to go to see the photographer in season 2, and he discovers that this photographer has been taking photos of little girls and selling them. And that's just like, at that point, he goes Punisher on him, and it's just it's a delight to see. But
there's been like 2 little hints of that type of Punisher that I want to see that we didn't actually get.
I feel like there's a decent number of hints, but it's all, as you said, it's so much of it is drawn directly to the, I was going to say the story he's on, but obviously like you have to have it because it's a story-driven series. But like, we haven't just seen him be Punisher for the sake of being Punisher. I get what you mean.
So like the 2 examples that I am thinking specifically about is end of Daredevil season 2, comes out with a fucking minigun. We don't get to see him use it.
But he had it in all the promos.
Yes, he did, but we didn't get to see him mow down a bunch of criminals with a fucking minigun. And that's what I want to see. And at the end of Punisher season 2, when he's fucking all done, he comes out with the dual guns and he's like, oh! We don't get to see him mow down a bunch of criminals with his dual guns. I want to see him do that. I want to see him in this next series, because there is going to be a fucking series, because I will make it happen. I want to see him go into like a warehouse full of criminals and just go brrrr, and just murder them all.
See, that's all well and good, but all I want from the next season of Punisher is him to be wearing his little white booties and his little white gloves.
I mean, that would be a pretty cool change. Like, I'd like to see that in some form.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, is the MCU in Phase 4 started to flirt a little bit with these, like, original costumes. So you've got, like, WandaVision, they're wearing their classic costumes. We see in the new Thor Love and Thunder trailer that Thor briefly is wearing his classic costume in what I assume is, like, a flashback, and it might not even be in the final movie because it's, like, a montage of him running through a forest. And you've obviously, I guess in Phase 1 you had Cap wearing his original costume on stage. Yeah, like how do you have Punisher wear his little white booties and his white gloves without actually just fully committing to that's his costume? And the only thing I can think of is him like having to infiltrate a Halloween party, and like somehow his Halloween costume involves him wearing white boots and white gloves.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but I'd really like to see it just for a moment. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with them not committing to it being his actual look, just because most modern Punisher doesn't wear that look. But I would love to see it in some form. And I don't think it's ever been on film, has it? Like even in the Punisher movie releases, he's never worn that outfit. So
no, I mean like I do like that costume. Don't get me wrong, because it is his original and it's like. It is iconic, but like I just love the trench coat and like symbol just like showing underneath. I just think it's such a badass fucking look.
See, like, I personally prefer it without the trench coat. Just like I really like it. It's a very simple look, but him just wearing a t-shirt with the vest on. It's like there's one cover in mind that springs to mind of him like sat on a chair with his gun up, and he's like wearing just like a black t-shirt with the vest. And I'm just like. It's simple, but I like it. It looks good.
Just a sucker for leather trench coats.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to actually see them go down that route. And the same thing with Daredevil and like Iron Fist and whatever. I want to see Heroes for Hire. I want to have that shift where they actually go into like actual sort of like I guess comic. It's unfair of me to say that they haven't been comic accurate. Well, disregarding Iron Fist.
His mask was pretty comic accurate in that one scene in season 2.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, but yeah, I'd love to see them actually go down that route a bit more. And like, I know a lot of Punisher fans probably don't want this, which is him fighting supervillains. but I genuinely think it is the next best step in that character's evolution.
You want to see Punisher in the sky fighting someone while there's a big laser in the background for the season finale of the Punisher 6-episode special event.
Well,
On a
maybe not
jetpack.
that, but but you know, I think the interesting thing about Punisher is that he is just a normal guy, same as like Batman, basically. You know, he is kind of just like a normal guy, and he has to
version of Batman.
yeah, and he has well, yeah, exactly. And when he's faced with actual supervillains that have powers that, you know, could literally kill him in, you know, a blink of an eye type thing. You know, obviously bullets can too, but you can kind of he's trained against that. Yeah, he can survive that, but you put him against someone who can fucking shoot lasers out of his eyes or some shit, and you know, you're like, oh, how is he gonna defeat this type of villain? And I think that is how you make the Punisher character more interesting without just replaying the same backstory and him getting revenge on people. I think it's interesting to put him up against a greater villain that he actually struggles against.
The last thing I'll say on this subject, and I think we've probably said this before in the podcast as well, is that as much as I think you can probably do Daredevil and, as I say, kind of like hint at the violence rather than overtly show it, in a similar vein to how Mandalorian does it, and I do think Punisher, you would need to actually show the violence because it doesn't feel like Punisher otherwise. I will say these programs are on Disney Plus. They've introduced parental controls. Just keep it the same tone and vibe. They won't, but just have it be as violent. I don't see a need to dumb it down for younger audiences, but they will.
I mean, a lot of the like I'm not a huge comic book reader. You know, I've probably read quite a lot in my time, and I've only read a few Punisher comics. But the way that Punisher is presented in the comics is he likes what he's doing. Like he gets a weird sort of satisfaction, you know, out of it. And like he basically is a sadist. Like that is the Punisher character. He hates these criminals. He likes killing them. He is always at war, and he always has these villains that monologue to him about, you're just still bent over about your family's death, and you know you don't need to go to war anymore, and blah blah blah. And the Punisher always comes to the same conclusion and says the same thing that he said in that court battle in Daredevil. He said he likes doing it. He'd do it like he'll just keep doing it because he doesn't think what he's doing is wrong. And his life is a war, as I said. That war is never going to end because that's his life now. Like he even says most of the time that everyone thinks that he became the monster when his family died. Yeah. Everyone thinks he became the monster when his family died. He's always been the monster. The only thing that happened when his family died was it let him off the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And he could be who he was always meant to be. And that's what I want to see out of Punisher. I want to see him just kind of loving what he's doing. And he always makes these like sadistic kind of like little quips when he comes face to face with a villain or is about to kill them, you know. And that's what I want to see.
Again, we got little bits of that. I do think the Punisher show did a pretty good job of it. I think I really want to move on to the next subject because we're an hour and a half in. But the one gripe I have with the Punisher show is that Daredevil season 2 sets up Frank becoming the Punisher. Punisher season 1 sets up Frank becoming the Punisher because he decides that he's done with being the Punisher at the very beginning of the show, and then we build up the entire season to him becoming the Punisher. And then season 2 is Frank done with being the Punisher, and then about halfway through he finally puts the skull vest on again, but doesn't really truly become Punisher until the very end. So it's like, I get that you're telling stories about the human, but the human can be the Punisher at the same time. You can tell stories about Frank, who is the Punisher, not you have to tell stories about Frank and the Punisher is just an afterthought sort of thing. So I would really love to see a version of him that's just actually the Punisher from start to finish.
Yeah. No, I agree, yeah.
But I still really love everything that they've done with the show, and I do think they did the character really, really well.
Yeah. I also want to see Micro come back, but that's the last thing.
No, I loved his characterization. She-Hulk.
So I know a lot of people have not great opinions on the CGI. And like I can understand that, you know, like especially after we've seen so much of the Hulk improve over the years and whatever, and get him to a really good sort of level of CGI. It is kind of abrasive, the difference in the two. But I think overall, I think the show looks great, honestly. I was watching the trailer and was like, I really like the look of this. Like, I'm actually really excited.
Tonally, I love what they're putting down, and I think it really suits the character from what I know of her in the comics, which is I've never read a She-Hulk comic, but I've seen her in other comics, and it felt very reminiscent of that. I think it's interesting, potentially plot-wise, what they're going to be doing. I don't know a lot, because it's very much a teaser trailer, but like little hints of things like Abomination being in the trailer and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see Abomination hopefully interact with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. I'd love to see that.
But the CGI is at the current point it's at, it will be so off-putting throughout presumably most of the runtime of most of the episodes. It's like, it's that bad to me. Like, it's not going to stop me from watching the show because I want to watch the show, but it's going to take me out of it so much if it's going to not be improved by the time they release it. I'm really looking forward to seeing, I know that it's going to be coming, they haven't announced it, but they're going to do it, a Corridor Crew video on the CGI in the trailer, because you just know that they're going to hit on that internet trend as soon as they can. But I think it's a mixture of a couple things. I think, first of all, the Hulk, they've probably got a really good workflow for that right now, where they've got all the models and all the textures, and they've got, you know, the rigging perfect, and like it's good to go, basically. Doesn't mean that it's going to be like, boop, 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 we're done, but it's like probably fairly quick comparative to other CGI characters to get Hulk looking that good. Right? Like, it's probably going to take a fraction of the time compared to other characters. I think the other thing is that because she looks a lot closer to a normal human compared to the Hulk, your eye is drawn more to the imperfections of her not quite looking right. Whereas the Hulk looks like a monster that's vaguely humanoid, she looks like a human who's vaguely monster-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
But I really hope they improve on it. I don't think that means the show looks bad, but there's a lot of shots in that trailer where I was like, oh, that's just... Ooh.
I'll tell you what it reminded me of when I was watching it. And I think this is why I didn't really think too much about the CGI, like when I was watching it for the first time. Was it... The show, to me, looks like one of those, like, films from the early 2000s where, like, maybe, like My Super Ex-Girlfriend or something like that. You know, where it's kind of just like a kind of goofy comedy where, almost like a sitcom, where, you know, they don't really... It's like they almost do the CGI bad on purpose just to show how out of place the character is. And then, like, and at first, when I was watching it and I was thinking like that, I was like, oh, I quite like that idea. But then you look at the Hulk next to it and you're like, but that doesn't work. Like,
I also think another gripe I have of it is the character design. Now, again, not having read any She-Hulk comics, I have seen a lot of people talk online. I don't know how accurate this is, but I've seen a lot of people rebut the criticisms of the character design, saying it's intentional. Supposedly in the comics, one of the reasons why Bruce becomes the Hulk is because he is this timid, shy guy who wants to be powerful and wants to be able to just stop people from hurting him. And so that's what the transformation makes him into, is this big rage monster that can't be pushed around. Meanwhile, she wants to be the center of attention. She wants to grab people's attention. She wants to be conventionally attractive, and so it turns her into that. So she's not as big and muscular in most versions, but she's more generically attractive, and that's fine. as a concept, like if that's what they're going to explore with it, and they're going to do that in the show as well, then cool, go for it. But it's that one shot where they both land from their jump together, and she looks closer in body proportion to the aliens in Avatar than she does to just a tall human. I was like, ooh. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it looks decent, but I really hope they improve that CGI, because it's gonna be jarring. It's gonna be more jarring than the bad green screen in Hawkeye.
Mm.
And it's also weird because people have been like, oh well, they've run out of budget. I'm like, well, but for the most part, Moon Knight's CGI was pretty fucking good, and they were doing two big monsters, but I guess they weren't as human looking. But like Khonshu and Ahmet both look great, and Hippo lady, who I can't remember the name of.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But yeah, so, but I do think the tone of it looks fun. So yeah, we'll see. Probably going to end in a big fight in Harlem between Abomination and She-Hulk.
Probably.
I will also say, and I think we've talked about this off podcast, but one of the shames, I think, but hopefully they find some unique angle of it, is that in the comics, one of the big things with She-Hulk compared to Hulk is that she has control over herself in Hulk form. She's like still as intelligent and as witty and charismatic and can talk as well and all of that. So she's basically just big and green. And Hulk is not. Hulk is a Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde situation, or the other way around. I can never remember which way around it is.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay. But in the MCU, they have transitioned to Hulk becoming Professor Hulk at this point, where he is as intelligent and as charismatic and is basically just Bruce but being green and strong. So you go, what's the unique angle that She-Hulk has now compared to Hulk?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this off podcast, but I said maybe this is going to be like one of Hulk's final outings, and, you know, seeing as she's like, he's gone through it, so maybe he teaches her how to just have control from the beginning. Like, she starts off kind of as like a better Hulk than him, and like she is basically his successor. He's like, I'm pretty much fucking done. I just want to relax and
Eat
live my
burritos.
life. Yeah, for however long is left of it. And, you know, maybe he's like, okay, well, this has happened to you, so let's make the best out of it. I can teach you some tips and tricks, help you out, and then on you go. And I'm just going to fuck off, you know, home and, you know, do whatever.
Real quick side note. I recently saw a GIF of the scene in Endgame where Professor Hulk gives a burrito to Scott Lang. And in that GIF, because I could see it on loop, I noticed something, a disturbing detail that I hate, and I hate the animators for doing it, and it also makes me wonder whether the food was always a burrito or not, is that the Hulk kind of does a kind of so he's holding the taco like this, and this is the inside of the taco, and he kind of does a into the filling of the taco before handing it to Scott. I'm like, why would you do that? Why are you just splodging your finger in the meat? Why?
Why
And I think,
why you do that to my main man Scott?
And I think as either it wasn't a burrito and then it changed to a burrito at some point, or the animator just did it because there's a bit of motion then with the hand moving slightly and the burrito moving slightly, so it grabs your eye more. But the reason why he's doing it is because he's just dipping his finger in the meat, and I'm like, I have a lesser opinion of you now, Bruce. That's you're a bad human being.
Dick move.
Yeah, exactly. Just completely unnecessary.
Everyone just treated Scott so badly. I felt like I always felt awful for him.
Who got treated worse, him or Thor, would you say?
Probably Scott, honestly.
Nah, I think it was Thor, man.
No, I don't know. I feel like with Thor, it was like them just kind of
bullying him.
Like, they were like, it was just like friendly bullying, you know, like they were all good buddies, and You know, they'd known
Pretty
each
sure
other.
Hulk's self-esteem was at rock bottom until he grabbed Mjolnir. I'm pretty sure they were just like pushing him closer and closer to the edge, buddy.
I mean, maybe, but like, I don't know. I feel like it was just unwarranted how they treated Scott.
Fair. Cool. Anything else on She-Hulk?
Not on She-Hulk, but I just thought of something because I I looked up the Punisher season 2 ending, just to confirm that that was the one I was thinking of, and in the recommended, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but in the recommended is the Punisher Dirty Laundry bootleg.
With Thomas Jane.
Yeah, I fucking love that, honestly. I mean, Thomas Jane,
It's
the
great.
Thomas Jane movie is still my favorite bit of Punisher media. It's completely different to like most interpretations of the character, but on its own, I love it so much, and it almost makes me sad that Punisher isn't in the MCU yet, because I would have very much liked to have seen the multiverse introduce Thomas Jane's Punisher just for a moment.
Still
I would have
possible.
loved to have seen them.
Feels like
But,
the multiverse is going to be their playground for the foreseeable future, so it's still possible.
I mean, it is, but I feel like it's less likely that it will happen to the Punisher. But also, saying that, I would also very much like to see Deadpool versus Punisher. I think that would be a brilliant film.
MultiVersus.
I think it looks incredible.
Yeah, so there's a closed beta currently going on, or it might be closed alpha, I'm not sure. Either way, my buddy Snake over at twitch.tv/Snake was playing it last week. It looks really fun. Like, I've not played a lot of Smash, so I'm not a big fan of Smash, but the gameplay looks great for a closed alpha/beta. It looked super fucking polished. Lots of different characters with lots of different variations in playstyle. I've got two minor gripes, but it is a closed beta or closed alpha, which is that there is one song that plays the entire time you're in the game, and your characters talk, and some of it can be heard by your opponent and some of it can't. It's great when it's like them bantering between each other. Like at one point he was playing as Harley and fighting Superman, and Superman was like, "I can see why Batman has so much trouble with you," and like, you know, that stuff's fun. But when he was playing as Batman and trying to learn Batman, he kept on like trying to learn different combos and stuff, and it'd be Batman going, "My Batarang's not ready yet. My grapple hook's not ready yet. My smoke bomb's not ready yet," and just like constantly saying these same lines and me going, "Oh god, I'm going insane." So that's my two minor gripes, but otherwise looks fucking phenomenal.
I follow a couple of YouTubers that do some videos together quite a lot, called Uncaged Games and Caboose. And I was watching Uncaged Games' first video on it, and he did like a 2v2, and I think it was like Batman and Bugs Bunny on one team, and then Superman and someone else on the other. And one of my favorite lines at that video was Superman just like punched Bugs Bunny or something, and he just goes, "I got the bunny." And I was like, that's amazing.
God,
I want to hear that again.
There was a fucking phenomenal line that Batman said to Bugs Bunny, but I can't remember what it was either. But Bugs Bunny has some great interactive lines with other characters, and yeah, no, like it just feels like it's a charming but like really well put together game, like really good fundamentals at this point. And considering the fact it's not fully out yet, that not all the characters in it yet, you can't play as Iron Giant in the closed beta/alpha. Like, considering all of that, I'm like really excited to see where this game goes.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who has played a lot of Smash, it looks so fucking fun to me. Like, don't get me wrong, anytime a new Smash game's out,
Like,
anytime
really?
a new Smash game comes out, I will play it.
Okay,
Because
I was gonna assume that you were gonna be like, really, why are you bothering, sort of thing.
no. I love the Smash games. Like, it's just always fun. I mean, you know, the Smash Bros. Ultimate, so many characters and stuff. Like, there's so much you can do, so much replayability. The story is pretty much always fun to play through, and like, a game like, and also I quite like the game Brawlhalla. I don't like it as much because I just don't get along with some of the mechanics. But a game like those with a bunch of different characters that you can kind of go crazy with their abilities and stuff. I just think it's an amazing idea. Like, I don't know who decided to come up with this idea and then managed to get the licenses for the characters, but like, genius. Honestly, genius.
I do have a theory, by the way, as well, talking about various characters and such. Like, I reckon that they're trying to get Macy Williams to return as Arya Stark for MultiVersus, because currently Arya Stark is one of the only characters who has no voice lines, and I'm like, you're either trying to hire Macy Williams or you're trying to find like a fantastic sound-alike, because they've already got Kevin Conroy as Batman. They've already got, I can't remember who they are, but the normal voice actor for Superman and Wonder Woman from the animated TV shows, the Justice League animated and all that. So they're bringing in like a stellar cast already. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're trying to get Macy Williams to come in and do like, I don't know, 30 lines of voice acting. Yeah, no, it looks really fun. The other thing, and again, I haven't played a lot of Smash. I haven't played Smash in years, and I haven't played a lot of it back then. But you do have 2v2 in Smash, right? That is a game mode you can play.
Yeah, you can set to like have shit tons of players against shit tons of players if you want.
But there's not a huge lot of interactivity between teammates. Am I right in saying that?
In what way? Like
saving each other
line.
And like working together on combos and that sort of thing. Again, I'm going
pretty
off of like 10 years
sure...
old information at least, so.
I mean, I've really only played like free for all. Like, if I've had a few buddies playing it, we've pretty much all just gone against each other, so I wouldn't know about like, working together as such, but I'm pretty sure you could. I mean, like, it's kind of utilizes the same mechanics. If you hit someone up in the air, it doesn't mean they're then invulnerable to your teammate.
Yeah.
Like, if you hit them up in the air, your teammate could hit them with another ability. So it is possible. I just haven't.
What I'm explicitly thinking
myself.
about is MultiVersus has one character currently who is not from an existing property. They are made for MultiVersus. Can't remember the name, but like a dog thing. And one of the main mechanics in the tutorial was they could activate an ability that like shot out tentacles at their teammate, and so if their teammate jumped off of the map, off the stage, they could get them pulled back onto the stage. So they had like basically a bungee cord safety net on them, and so that allowed them to risk jumping off of the stage to deal with an opponent while their teammate could just yank them back in. And things like Batman's got a grappling hook, Wonder Woman's got a lasso, and that sort of thing. So I imagine they can do similar things. And it was just like, I don't remember ever seeing that in Smash. It might be, but I don't remember ever seeing that sort of level of co-op, I guess. So
now that you've kind of elaborated, I don't think there is anything like that really.
Yeah. Also,
which is pretty cool, to be fair.
Also, I fucking love how Shaggy has Ultra Instinct.
Yep.
But Velma's just Velma.
Yeah. It's
just Velma.
I think it's like they're definitely playing on memes. Like, they're giving the people what they want. I mean, like, people really wanted Jimmy Neutron's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody gives a shit about Jimmy Neutron. But now they've just introduced Jimmy Neutron's dad, who like rides a motorcycle and shit. Like, that's amazing.
The teaser trailer was great as well because it has Batman of all people teaming up with Ultra Instinct Shaggy, which is just a fucking great screen. But then they also had Superman's about to get involved in the fight, and Iron Giant shows up, and I can't remember exactly what they say to each other, but Superman ends up saying, "All right, we're in this together" or something. And I was just like, oh, that must have meant so much to Iron Giant. He worships Superman, and Superman wants to team up with him. So anyways, yes, it looks cool. And it's going to be free to play, so
I'm pretty excited to try out Steven Universe. Actually, not actually. I don't know if there's gameplay of him yet, but
Yeah.
I imagine he's going to be pretty fun.
If you want to see gameplay of it, my buddy Snake either played as him or against him last week, so you can go watch that VOD on twitch.tv/Snake. Cool. CW Gotham Knights, not to be confused with Warner Brothers Montreal's Gotham Knights. Which one looks better? Which one looks worse?
Why won't CW just stop? Just please, just stop.
Hey, they make Superman and Lois, and apparently that's really fucking good, and all I've seen of it I really like, and I keep on meaning to eventually get around to watching it.
Alright, please stop everything but Superman and Lois.
You can give them a free pass on that.
Yeah. I just... Okay, so some news has come out about Gotham Knights. They have announced the characters that it's going to follow.
And you look at the photo.
And you cannot tell who the fuck any of them are.
Nope. I literally have, like, the one in the middle, I was like, is that Dick Grayson? It doesn't look a lot like Dick Grayson, but, like, it's an older boy than all of the other characters. So, oh, no, it's not Dick Grayson. Okay.
It baffles me, their decisions, honestly. Like, I feel like I'm losing brain cells even just thinking about this show. So, I think the main character, or at least the bloke that is front and center in this image, which leads me to believe that he is going to be like the leader of the team, is Turner Hayes. Now, if you don't know who Turner Hayes is, neither do I. Neither does fucking anyone. Because
I've just Googled Turner Hayes without any context to it being Batman. And the very last result on Google is to do with this TV show, and that's it.
Because he is... I mean, I may be wrong. Maybe in some deep, dark abyss where they threw some, like, really dumb and irrelevant Batman comic that included him in, which I don't think they did. He is a made-up character. They've made him for the show. So forget all of the Bat family you know and love and would like to see in a proper adaptation where they're done correctly. No, instead, you're getting Turner Hayes, the adopted son of Batman. Because... well, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to ask the writers why. And I'm not even sure they could give me a proper answer that would satisfy me. But yeah, they've made up this redundant character that nobody knows and nobody is probably going to actually like because they're just going to be like, well, why isn't this Dick? And...
well, to be fair, it does kind of sound like Dick.
Well, yeah, so why not just have Dick?
No, I mean, it sounds like Dick.
Oh, it is Dick, yeah. It's also ass and balls.
The whole combo, wow.
Yeah, and the rest of the cast, all the characters, are just like the Z-list characters from Batman that we've seen before, like Stephanie Brown, Cary Grant. Is that her name?
Carrie something. The Robin from The Dark Knight Returns, right?
Yeah. Harper Row. I do know Harper Row, actually.
Is that a knockoff Roy Harper?
No, Harper Row.
Roy Harper, like...
Harper Row was in... something. Okay. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was in like a show or if it was in a comic, but I know that she basically helps Batman when he like wakes up in a sewer or some shit. And she like, yeah, and she like helps him out. Oh, that's yeah. She like finds Batman's like tracking systems throughout the sewers or something, and then she she's like a whiz kid type thing, as most of Batman's sidekicks are, and she boosts the signal or whatever, unbeknownst to him, and he's like, "Oh, stay away," and then she doesn't, and whatever. And I don't really know an awful lot about the character. I just know her from somewhere. So that is a pre-existing character that I am aware of exists in some Batman timeline. I think she becomes a superhero in her own right. She doesn't just stay like a normal kid. I can't remember what she becomes. Maybe something like Bluebird or something. I don't know. Something random like that. And then the last character is, I literally can't even remember. I need to read this article again. Oh, it's Carrie Kelly.
Okay.
And maybe that's her brother, Cullen. It's also going to have Jewella Dent in it.
Cullen,
yeah.
And Batman. The connections, Alex.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we're gonna have a.
He's gonna be related to Cullen. She's gonna show up in the Batman too.
So yeah, there's gonna be Jewella Dent.
I mean, I don't know if that's a character from the comics. That's a pretty great name for Harvey's daughter, Jewella.
It is a character from the comics, okay. But it's like she's an interesting character because she comes on the scene and she's going by the name Joker's daughter.
Mm.
And then she also takes on a bunch of other like plays on villains and other characters' names and stuff. She's often a villain, and I think like there's some weird. It's really fucking weird. Like I without looking into her past again, because I have like read up on her before, but it's basically this thing of like, oh, is she Harvey's kid? Is she actually Joker's daughter? And then maybe it turns out that she's like the jokster's daughter from a different universe, and like it's fucking crazy. So I mean, who bloody knows what they're going to do with that in the show? Probably nothing good.
But here's the thing: you're being very pessimistic about this show. I just want to point out.
It's going to be trash.
I just want to point out that Harley Quinn was made for Batman the Animated Series. So maybe Turner Hayes is going to be the next Harley Quinn. Maybe 20 years from now, boys are going to be going to Halloween dressed as Turner Hayes in some booty shorts.
No. No, just no. There is zero possibility of that. I'm pretty sure this show is going to be dead on arrival. But there's also there is Harvey Dent in the show, so it probably will turn out just to be his daughter.
Who's playing him? I remember it being an actor I recognized.
Misha Collins.
That's it, yeah. Harvey Dent. Can we trust him?
But that's pretty much it. It looks crap. Like, they're pretty much all the characters that nobody wants to see or cares about. So why? When you think Gotham Knights, you think the sort of roster that we're getting for the Gotham Knights game.
I think when you say Gotham Knights, I think about boing, 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 boing. On
like
Souls.
A porn video?
No, on jumping on Souls. That's the sound effect I picture when I think of Red Hood bouncing on Souls.
Oh. But yeah, it's beyond me why they decided to make this show. I don't know how it was approved or.
I know exactly why they're making this show, and it's because they can't rely on Ezra Miller to be the Flash anymore.
Because he's going insane because of NFTs.
Did you like that segue?
I did, yes.
So yeah, Ezra Miller continuing to terrorize the island of Hawaii and its citizens. This is pretty old news at this point, but he got arrested yet again, and in body cam footage of him being arrested, he claimed that the reason why he was assaulting people, well, he first of all claimed that he wasn't assaulting people, he was goading people into assaulting him, but multiple reports have said that he assaulted people. But he's goaded people into assaulting him so that he can film them, so that he can sell them as NFTs.
I mean, okay, even if he was goading people into assaulting him, how does that then escalate into throwing a chair at a lady's head?
You remember for the Vine?
Yeah.
For the NFTs. But, you know, the good news is that maybe Ezra Miller will finally be stopped because the NFT market is currently in the process of continuously crashing. Like, it's just bad. People are losing so much money. Yeah, exactly. But I have worked out that if I ever need to try and explain, like, alignments to people, the indie alignments, chaotic evil. That's Ezra Miller.
Yeah, I agree. I think he needs just some serious help, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
No sane person acts that way.
Nope.
I'm surprised he can even last long enough to film like scenes, really, without just going.
Well, this is the thing, is that I've never heard about Ezra Miller being this crazy until this whole Hawaii situation. I think the closest thing to that was a couple of months ago. He did a video where he was addressing the KKK in a certain area and basically saying that if they don't clear out, that they were going to show up and murder all of these members of the KKK. And I was like, oh, it was pretty crazy, but also can't disagree, Ezra Miller.
He's out of line, but he's not wrong.
Exactly. And so who knows? Maybe all of these people in Hawaii that he's attacking are actually secretly members of the KKK, or at least he thinks they are.
I mean, that would be a pretty big plot twist. I can imagine like a film on this years later of like the devolution of Ezra Miller and the KKK. But but I mean, he did also push like a lady over a year or two ago.
Okay.
Although I think there was some weirdness surrounding that, like the witnesses around were like, oh no, he just pushed her over for no fucking reason, and then he was like, no, it was by accident. And then
he did also do a fan photo with, I don't remember whether the girl was underage or not, but like fairly young, like let's say 18, but it might have been just under 18. He did a fan photo with her where she was like, oh, can I take a selfie? And he was like, yeah. What if I was choking you in the selfie? And she agreed to it, so there's a photo of him actually choking this girl, but it's just like, that's fucking weird. It's like,
yeah.
So actually, yeah, he does have a history of being weird, but still.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Doctor Who. A couple of things. I know you're not super up to date with Doctor Who, but I'm just going to kind of rattle this stuff off, and then if you got stuff to say, then you'll say it. Otherwise, we'll just move on, because we've been going for a while now. So two things. They announced that for the 60th anniversary special of Doctor Who, which will be being helmed by Russell T Davies as part of his taking over, both David Tennant and Catherine Tate will be returning as the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble, which is exciting. I think that's my favourite pairing of Doctor and companion ever. So I'm super down to see those two return. Not really surprising that Tenant was going to return, but cool to see Tate returning. I do wonder, though, in the 50th anniversary special, they just had Matt Smith with his companion, and then the War Doctor and the 10th Doctor didn't have anyone with them. I mean, I guess You had whatever it was called, Rose Tyler, but as a construct for the War Doctor, but still. So it's interesting that David Tennant's going to be coming in with his companion. I wonder whether that means if Matt Smith or anyone else, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, or Jodie Whittaker show up in the 60th special, whether they will have their companions with them, or whether they're not going to be in it and it's just going to be Tenant and Ncuti Gatwa, who are like 14th Doctor, right? Yes, 14th Doctor. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Then the other little bit they announced is, I can't remember her name. I did post it somewhere. Hold on. Scrolling up.
Yasmin something or other.
Yasmin Finney has joined the cast of Doctor Who. And so the current announcements for Russell T Davies's return and the 14th Doctor have been doing emojis as like part of their announcements. So for like Ncuti, they had like 2 red hearts, then a blue square to be like 2 hearts in the TARDIS. And so for Yasmin's joining the cast, they posted a rose plus blue box. So lots of people are theorizing she might be playing some form of Rose Tyler, which would be weird but interesting. Other people have theorized that it might be that Donna if Donna had a daughter with her husband that she had got at the end of her season with David Tennant, her daughter would be around about 17 at this point, which Yasmin Finney could play around about a 17 to 18-year-old. And they're like, well, maybe Donna named her daughter after Rose, so it's going to be a new Rose, but it's going to be... And Donna did marry a black man, so that could work in terms of actor portraying them as well. So, yeah, it's just interesting. I can't remember what season it is, but the 14th Doctor's run with Russell T Davies is shaping up to be intriguing in terms of the stuff that they've revealed about it. Because I'm just like, ooh, where are you going to take this? I'm definitely going to tune in for it, even if I have to deal with the Times Child bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to get back into Doctor Who, but there's just something about it, especially after not watching it for so long, that is so off-putting to me. Like
Are you saying that there's something in the way?
Yes. So anyway, on to the Batman.
We've been avoiding all podcast, damn it. Why did I do this?
Yeah, I don't think I can bring myself to do it. It's like I feel like it was hard for me to leave Doctor Who behind when I did, because up until that point I'd really enjoyed it, and it almost feels to me like if I went back and watched it all, it was like all that hard work is come to nothing, basically. And also I just don't know if it would hold my interest anymore. Like I've seen and heard so many like crazy things about what's happened in Doctor Who since, and I'm just like,
but
it just is.
That's one of the biggest things I'm hoping for from Russell T Davies's return, is that his run of Doctor Who was pretty small scale ultimately, and he really relished in those much smaller scale episodes, and not just smaller scale seasons, but smaller scale episodes. And Doctor Who has been progressively getting to these bigger and bigger epic events. And I say progressively, I mean fucking Matt Smith's first season was him restarting the Big Bang at the end of it, and season 2 was him resetting a parallel universe. So like he's always had pretty big finales, but his overall seasons have still been pretty restrained, not as restrained as Tennant and Eccleston's, but still. And so I really hope that we go back to this smaller scale. It doesn't have to be like the entirety of Jodie Whittaker's final season was billed as this like epic space opera, and I'm like, that's not Doctor Who though. So yeah,
I don't know. Maybe in the future I will decide to give it another try, but
And I guess the
think-
thing is, in theory, with Doctor Who, you can kind of jump in whenever you want, and theoretically, you should be fine. Like, you don't need to have watched every single previous run of Doctor Who. So, theoretically, you could just jump straight back in when Russell T Davies takes the helm and see if you enjoy it, basically.
Yeah, I could do, yeah. Not a bad plan.
All right. Velma.
What the fuck?
So it's I can't remember the exact context of this leak, but it's like some sort of event, some sort of convention or reel or whatever. It's them showing at some sort of showcase stuff for HBO Max. And this photo is taken on someone's phone of the showrunner, Mindy Kaling, from, I believe, The Office, right? Mindy Kaling was in The Office, yeah. And the Mindy Show or whatever. It's going to be her Velma series, which is going to be an adult animated series on HBO Max. And you go, okay, well, that could be interesting, I suppose. And the screen grab or the photo that someone's taken of her on stage has Velma standing, looking at a corpse. The corpse has its entirety of its head cut open, and you can see into the skull cavity, and there is no brain in there anymore. In the background is a multitude of characters looking just as shocked as Velma, in various states of undress. It looks like they were showering in a locker room or something, with one of them, who might be Daphne, I mean, it's a redhead, being full-ass naked and fully in view. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
Okay then. Like, I'm just confused.
I don't understand what it is with these people and deciding to make something like Scooby-Doo into something that it was never supposed to be. Like, it is crazy to me. Like, I mean, because they've done this before. I mean, maybe to a lesser extent, but you know, there's that series about like Velma and Daphne about being friends in school or something, and it's like, I just don't, I don't understand why you've taken such a simple beloved concept and fucked with it.
Where'd you come down on the James Gunn Scooby-Doo movies?
I enjoyed them as a child, and I think they had some good things, like fuck,
Because
so bad with names today.
they're definitely more raunchy and more like slightly adult, or it's similar to what we were saying with Shrek, but I would say like more on the like edgy adult humor than the Scooby-Doo series has. So like, do you feel like that's kind of pushing the envelope too far, or do you think that's all right?
So the stuff with Velma and that, like, obviously, as a child and as a man, I was like, ooh, you know. But
I've just
but,
been
like,
awoken.
yeah. But like, from the standpoint of, is it Scooby-Doo and the concept behind it, I didn't really think it fit in. I don't think it was necessary. The same with Daphne being like a kung fu master or something. I just thought that was very strange. But I will forever love those films simply because of the casting for Shaggy, whose name I literally cannot think of right now.
Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard.
I
Yeah.
kept on thinking
I
Matt
think he was
Manta, but that was
perfect-
Anakin, and I was like, it's definitely not the guy who plays Anakin.
But I think he was a perfect cast and has continued to be the perfect cast for, you know, voicing him.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if he returns for MultiVersus or not, which is something I'm interested in, considering
Don't think
most
he
recent-
does. I think it's a different voice actor.
yeah, the most recent. I think it was literally just called Scooby or something. The most recent Scooby-Doo film,
Scoob.
and they got like Scoob, yeah, and they got a totally different voice cast, and I was like, why? Like, you've got this cast that are still able to do it after so many years. They are beloved by pretty much everyone, like after the previous Shaggy's voice actor died or, retired or
here's him.
whatever. Oh, good. Everyone, pretty much just accepted and deemed Matthew Lillard worthy of taking over the role.
Mm-hmm.
And then to just suddenly shaft him without even telling him that they were going to recast, like, I was not down for that. I think Matthew Lillard has put his heart and soul into that character. As weird as that sounds, coming, or talking about a kids, show after everything we talked about Star Wars, kind of didn't really want to say that, but it is. It's made for kids, realistically. But
And again, I would go back to things can be made for kids. Star Wars is made for kids. That shouldn't be some form of criticism or put down on that content, is my opinion.
yeah,
It's just it's first and foremost target audience is for kids.
I'm pretty sure if I went back and watched like the old Scooby-Doo series, I'd probably still get something out of it.
Yep.
I mean, probably less so now as an adult, because seeing the exact same plot run its course episode to episode gets a bit boring for me. Like if I watched a couple, I probably would still get something out of it.
So I can't find the information here. Maybe it was just like an urban myth when I was a kid. But I remember hearing a story when I was a kid that supposedly Scooby-Doo originated as a stoner comedy that was aimed at a slightly older audience, and then they removed all of those references, like the overt references, before they could air it for kids. I can't find any information about that on the Wikipedia page, so it might be complete bullshit, but there is definitely some like allusions to the fact that they're stoners and whatever with Scooby snacks and what have you. But yeah, so I don't think inherently the idea of maybe having a slightly more adult orientated Scooby-Doo content is bad. And again, that's why I brought up the James Gunn movies, is that I think that they kind of fit that bill a little bit. But yeah, beheaded, or not beheaded, melon scooped corpse and nudity just feels weird with anything to do with Scooby-Doo attached to it.
Especially like I again with the Scooby-Doo movies. I mean, stop me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure no one actually died in those movies, right?
If they did, because I feel like maybe some characters did, it was like someone gets kicked off a ledge and they go, ooh, and then you don't see them land, sort of thing.
But I mean, the thing about Scooby-Doo is like usually no one's actually like died or anything. It's maybe someone's stolen something, and it always ends up being one of the characters that you've seen in the episode, and like it's like, oh,
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for your meddling kids.
Like it's the perverting the base concept to me is just not Scooby-Doo. Like if you want to just have a show where it is like a murder mystery thing,
you could even have a show that's inspired by Scooby-Doo, but is like not it. But calling it Velma and very much it being a Scooby-Doo spin-off just feels weird.
Yeah, like just don't. Just do something else. And just call it something else. It doesn't have to be that. I don't understand why they would do it.
And it's interesting as well because I think they've recently actually released it, or released the first episode or whatever. There is a fan film on YouTube, which is the entire premise is it's a live-action, gritty, serious take on Scooby-Doo. And I'm like, well, that's a YouTube fan film. I'm totally fine with that as a concept. But like the company that makes it just feels weird. I don't know.
I mean, because I guess you can just see it as like you can see it as a parody, right? You can see it as a parody of that, but like, is it really though? Yeah. Because you're not really poking fun at it. As I said, you're just taking the base concept of that show and just perverting it into something that it isn't.
Yeah.
And to me, it doesn't feel like a parody.
And I think the thing that it feels like to me is I look at that screen grab, and it is just a screen grab, but I look at that screen grab and I go, it feels like some executive sat in a boardroom and went, so Rick and Morty's popular, and Family Guy, American Dad, South Park. What properties do we have that we could do that with? And then someone went, oh, what about Scooby-Doo? And
Yeah.
like, you know, I don't want to assume Mindy Kaling, but I assume your heart's not in it.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure her idea through and through.
Maybe.
I don't know. It baffles the brain.
Right, final bit of news, and then we're all caught up. We've done it, and we're not even.
There is one thing that I want to add on at the end, just very quickly. But God, poor microphone.
Yeah, I muted myself though, so it's fine. Umbrella Academy season 3.
Yeah. From the short bit of it I've seen, it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks about as good as probably first couple of seasons. Without actually seeing the show, it looks just as crazy, really.
It looks like a good time. I really liked. There's this one line in the trailer. So the whole like teaser trailer is the Sparrow Academy, which is like spoilers alert for season 2. After they come back to the present day, they're no longer the Umbrella Academy. The Sparrow Academy are now the thing, and their dad's still alive, but he's in charge of the Sparrow Academy. And so it's like a lot of the teaser trailer is Sparrow Academy versus Umbrella Academy, and like the tensions there. And there's this great scene where Vanya, who, apologies if she's not going to be called Vanya in this new season. I don't think they actually explicitly say what her name is in the trailer. I know that so Elliot Page has come out as trans, and apparently the character is also going to be trans in this season. But I don't know whether they've announced what their new name is. So I'm going to call them Vanya for the time being. Apologies if I'm accidentally dead naming the character.
They'll probably just call them Van.
Yeah.
Something.
But until we know, and again, if they've announced it in some article or something, I apologize. But there's a scene where Vanya's talking to someone from the Sparrow Academy, and the Sparrow Academy person says something like, you guys are nothing, you're pathetic. And she's like, really? I ended the world twice. You're nothing. And it's just like, it's much cooler the way that they say it, and it's just a much better line, but it was just like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah. I also like the idea of a chain-smoking, biker-looking pogo. I'm very much looking forward to that.
And I did like so there's a bit in the teaser trailer as well where they say that the other versions must be out there. Like, it's basically like a bit of a multiverse situation where the original Umbrella Academy kids just didn't get adopted by their dad, but they still exist out there. And so, God, what's the little kid's number again? Is it number
5?
Number 5. 5 says, if you see your other selves, and then like one of Diego, I think, says kill them, and then what's his name? God, I've forgotten all the characters' names. Robert Sheehan's character. Yeah. Casper, something like that. It begins with K, right?
Klaus.
Klaus goes, fuck them, and then they will kind of get weirded out by it. And then the other guy, the big guy, Gorilla Grodd, who's not Gorilla Grodd, says like
Space Monkey.
Yeah, he says like, you guys are so messed up, and then they're like, wait, you wouldn't fuck yourself if you met yourself? And he's like So yeah, it looks.
I swear, if we don't get to see Klaus fucking himself, I'll be severely disappointed.
But yeah, so it looks like a real fun time. I'm down for it.
Yeah, I just think it's such a great show. Honestly, like I know it does differ quite a bit from the comics, but like, I mean, I haven't read them, so obviously, if there are any fans out there that have read the comics and they're like, oh, I can't believe they did this, blah blah blah. I'm sorry, but I can't say that as like a non-comic book reader of that series. I think the show's great. Like,
yeah, and I'm pretty sure Jared Way is quite actively involved in the show still. So like, it feels like it's very much the creator being on board with how it's being changed for television as well. So, but I'm, again, if you prefer the comic books, that's fine. But the show's a lot of fun. So,
And like, I totally get it. There are shows like that for me, like The Witcher, for example. Like, but yeah.
Also, Diego's girlfriend, who I'm pretty sure turned out to be one of the children, but we didn't know what superpowers she had or something. She seems to have similar powers to Vanya in the trailer, unless I forgot what power she had in season 2 at the end. But
I can't remember.
There seems to be a scene where like her and
it.
Vanya are like stood next to each other, and they're both doing the same thing, and like the same sort of effect is coming out of them. So, but yeah, I might have to rewatch. I kind of mostly remember season 1. I might have to rewatch season 2 because memory is faded. But
I pretty much only remember Klaus's story from season 2.
Yeah,
just because it was the most interesting to me.
I remember the overarching narrative. I just don't remember specific details about season 2 that led to directly season 3. But cool. You said you had another thing.
Yes. So I just saw. I don't know how I didn't see this 3 days ago when it released, but I saw there is an official trailer for a Baymax series.
Oh yeah.
So for those of you that don't know,
it's the film with the hot mum, but she's not actually as hot in the film. But someone photoshopped her, and everyone's like, "Hot mum."
Yeah. So Baymax is from Big Hero 6. Great film, honestly, love it.
Never seen it.
You haven't? It's so good, dude. You got to watch it. I remember
Disney Plus, right?
Probably. I imagine it is. But I remember I actually saw it round Tom's for the first time, because when it came out, I saw that it was kind of by Marvel, but I was like, I don't really know anything about it. Like, it just kind of looks like it's not for me. And then it was just like on TV, and I watched it, and I was like, I can't believe I've never fucking seen that film before. It's so good. And now they're doing a series based on one of the characters out of it. Well, 2 of the characters out of it.
It is on Disney Plus.
Start streaming next month, 29th. Looks a lot of fun. Looks very entertaining. He gets a cat gets his claws out and goes woo, and he punctures him. It's a good time. Cats. I love cats. Not the film.
No,
I would never watch that film. The musical is pretty good, but not really.
It sounds like you just unveiled what you'd be willing to sacrifice if you refuse to do Elden Ring.
I'm not refusing to do Elden Ring. I'd rather play Elden Ring than watch fucking cats.
The movie, or like the act of 2 cats fucking?
I'd rather watch 2 cats fucking than play Elden Ring. But
well, we know what your future forfeit is for another thing is watching cats and doing a reaction to it, doing a roll for insight on cats.
Oh no, please.
Very quick as well, if we're throwing one last thing in, but we do need to make it quick because otherwise we're going to overrun, and we're trying to keep this a reasonably decent length. Did you hear about the Namor leak?
I feel like I have, but I might have just seen it in passing.
So supposedly, again, not even confirmed for Black Panther 2 yet, but Namor is supposedly going to be the villain, or at least a character in Black Panther 2. And they have apparently changed his backstory so that he's no longer from Atlantis, and is instead from, I can't remember the name, but a legendary Aztec city that also went underwater. So they've just moved him to a different mythological or legendary city, and the rationale behind it is to try and differentiate him from Aquaman. And I don't hate it. I don't have particularly strong feelings about Namor being from Atlantis as long as the core of the character is the same. I'm kind of fine with him being from South America.
Yeah, I think when you first said that, I was gonna be like, just why? Like, what is the point? But after you say just to differentiate from Aquaman, yeah, I can kind of see the reasoning behind that.
To be clear, he deserves to be from Atlantis in that sense because he predates Aquaman, but I don't care.
But Aquaman got there first, or DC got there first.
He got there first. He's more famous anyways and has been for a long time. And as I say, as long as the character remains fundamentally the same, I also think you can play the angle of, you know, Black Panther 1 is very much exploring the ideas of race and where one fits within the wider world. And there are many, many scenarios of Namor in the comics, particularly the older comics, talking about having to get revenge on white men. So kind of works if he's not at first glance a white man, because I would say in the comics he kind of looks white for the most part. So yeah, you know, I think they can do something fun there where, you know, Black Panther is exploring kind of African Americans and that identity. So you could do like Southern Americans and their identity in the United States potentially. I think it's got some room to play with there, and also visually I think that can be quite interesting. So I don't hate it, but I just thought I would mention it. Yeah. And it might be completely bullshit. It could be completely false. So. Well, the media in the week.
Consumption.
What, the illness?
Consumption, the illness.
Isn't that what they used to call, like, cancer or something? I've got a consumption, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Googling it, but what have you consumed? Tuberculosis was called consumption.
So over the last couple of weeks, there's a couple of things actually. We didn't talk about Gedonia on the last podcast, did we?
Nope, don't think so.
No. So two main things really that I've been doing. One of them I've only watched like 2 or 3 episodes of, but first one is a game called Gedonia. It is like a small-ish indie RPG game that's made by this one Ukrainian guy who is just pumping out updates even though his country's at war. It's like if Oleg, the creator of the game, ever sees this podcast, although I doubt he will, no offense to you or, you know, any of your writing skills or your casting choices, but the writing is pretty awful. The voice acting is horrendous.
Wow.
But the core gameplay mechanics, the combat, the magic system, like the ability points, skill trees, like just the amount that is in the game, like the little stories that you find throughout the quests, like they're all so different, and like it has good comedy in it. Like it is so fucking good, and it's like £10 or something like that. It's a £10 game.
£9.29 currently.
£9.29, and for that price, you get so much in a game. Like it has such a good replayability factor from, you know, the skills and powers and stuff you get. Like you can make you can basically tailor the way you play completely, and it's just really fucking good. I would recommend it like very highly. I know Callum and Tom have both been playing it. It was Tom that first got me into it. Pete should play it, but he refuses to.
I've not refused to. I've just not played it. Don't put words in my mouth.
We said you should play Gedonia, and you said I only play good games.
Okay, so I did say that.
And we said it is a good game, and you just said I only play good games, and we just could not win you over. So
okay, but I was looking for advice on what game to play for my current Steam list. So
okay, well, all right, but you should play Gedonia because it is very good. And then second thing,
and in my defense, you play shit like fucking Teamfight Tactics all the time, so I just assume your game taste is incredibly poor.
TFT is good, okay, when I'm winning. Um, and then the other thing, which I've just recently started, like yesterday or the day before, there is a new, and it's funny, we were talking about him earlier. There's a new Mike Myers show out on Netflix called The Pentaverate.
Have you got to the cameo yet?
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't know what one you're talking about.
I'll just leave it at that then.
But yeah, I'm finding it very funny. I was kind of like very nicely surprised by it because it's. I feel like there's a history of Netflix shows that include a lot of like older sort of comedy actors, because Mike Myers is getting on a bit now. You know, he's like nearly 60. You know, and a lot of his old stuff. Granted, he is making another Austin Powers movie, which I'm very excited for, but Austin Powers back in the day and stuff like The Love Guru, it wasn't. I don't think he could get away with a lot of the stuff nowadays that he did back then. And so there's always like that usual like skepticism about like, ooh, how is this show gonna be? You know, like if he can't use his usual sort of humor or whatever. But no, I was very nicely surprised by it. It is very much Mike Myers humor, albeit toned down a little bit, but it's pretty much the same. It's a great watch. I love Key from Key and Peele is in it. Yeah, it's just a pretty good watch. I would recommend that too.
Fair enough. I finished BoJack Horseman. Yeah. I don't know if we talked about BoJack Horseman on the podcast. I think we talked about it off the podcast, but
yeah, I don't think we have.
BoJack Horseman is a show where, and I'd heard people talk about it before I watched it, and I probably watched it 3 or 4 years ago now, where you start season 1 and it's kind of aggressively mediocre, and you go, why do people recommend this show? Like, it's fine, but it's not funny. Like, it's not funny, but it's not great. It's just like, it's not gripping me at all. And somewhere between the second half of season 1 and the first half of season 2, it has dug its talons into you and won't let go. And somewhere around about season 3 or 4, I remember finishing a season having a fucking panic attack as I went into an existential crisis because of how hard the show hit me. Which is, like, on the one hand, you might be like, well, that's not something you should recommend. But I just mean, like, in terms of how much it moved me, it was just like, oh, this is making me think about my own life in very big ways.
Oh, yes.
So going into the final season, like, I hadn't intentionally put it off per se, but when they released the final season, I was like, I'll get around to it, and then I just haven't gotten around to it, and it's been out for like 2 years now. So finally got around to it, and it didn't break me, but it's really fucking good. It's a great end for the show. I don't want to say too much because Alex hasn't watched it, but like it's.
Yeah, I have. I was kind of in a similar situation. However, I got through like maybe over half of the final season, and like the last few episodes, I couldn't bring myself to watch because, like, I'd watched it since the first like season released, and like I was, you know, not to sound like a hipster or anything, but because I watched it when it first released, it took a while for it to like really, you know, catch fire and have a much wider audience. And so at the time it was very personal to me. Like, it very much felt like my thing, you know, like I'd ask. It wasn't like I was trying to gatekeep it or anything, but it was very much one of those situations where I'd just randomly say to my friend, like, oh, have you seen BoJack Horseman? And they're like, no. And that would be the same scenario with everyone I ask about it. And like, they'd be like, what's it about? And on the surface, it's so difficult to describe to someone because like it has so much depth and nuance.
It's a surrealist comedy show where you've got anthropomorphized animals living amongst humans, and it's a story about a horse, BoJack, Horseman, who used to be in a sitcom in the 90s that was very, very successful, and now he's a washed-up actor. That's the basic premise. Yeah. Going anything beyond that other than just, like, it's incredibly deep and moving, and just, like, one of the rawest fucking written things I've ever experienced. Just, like, it's just, you know, it feels like an artist has just bled their soul into it. Beyond that, you can't really say much about it, and then you won't experience any of that for a decent chunk of season 1, where at that point it feels just like a kind of Rick and Morty-esque, like, adult humor, but with animals sort of thing. And then at some point, you don't even consciously notice it shift, which makes me think it's intentional. But at some point during season 1, or as I say, maybe early season 2, you go, something's changed. And you can't. I don't even know if I rewatched it whether I could pinpoint when it changes. But yeah, it just sneaks.
But I think even if you said that as succinctly as you did to someone that was asking what it was about, as someone like, if they've never seen anything about that show, I feel like as soon as you started saying that, their mind would just shut off and they just wouldn't give it a second thought. Because like, I feel like if you know, a normal series where it has quite a lot of, you know, is very character focused and about them improving themselves and everything, and like that gets quite emotional and deep and everything. If it was just a regular show with normal humans and everything, people love that type of shit, you know? You're always seeing Netflix series like that and whatever else. But as soon as you say that and then you say it's about an animated horse, they just shut off, because again, it's with the animation thing, I swear. And like, it's such a, it is a weird concept.
He is more human than most human characters in any media. Like, he's so honestly, I genuinely sometimes think that maybe, because you're the second person I've met in real life who I know has seen the show. I've got a friend from uni who I know has seen it, and I hope it's okay to say this, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the one thing that all three of us have in common, and I think the show is very heavily leaning on this, is we suffer with mental health issues.
Yeah, definitely. And that was why it was so personal to me.
Well, exactly. And so like, maybe that's what makes it difficult to recommend, is like, yo, do you have, like, are you fucked up in the head? I've got a show for you.
And I mean, I think I'd never really thought about it that way, but I think that's probably why I did relate to it so much, because back when the show first came out, it was at a time where I didn't really have a grasp on the fact that I was like depressed and had anxiety and stuff. And so like I had all this stuff going on inside me, and then suddenly to see a show that just basically puts it all out in the open and that you can relate to on a totally different level, like, I genuinely think the show helped me. Like, because it like, as you said, it makes you look at your own life, and trying
and
to
the thing is, I don't even think that I have the same issues as some of the characters in the show. Like, I think, you know, you talked about it feeling very personal. I don't see a lot of BoJack in me or a lot of Todd in me or anything like that. But it was just the frankness that they discussed things that I think lots of people experienced. I just went, oh fuck, just like, yeah.
And by like personal to me, I meant that in a way that it was, as I said, it was like my show at the time. Like, nobody else I knew watched it, nobody else cared. But for me, the feelings I got from that show, like, it was like, this is, you know, this is for me. It was like, it was just made specifically for me. And obviously, again, I don't want to gatekeep, because I know a lot of other people do relate to it and everything, and I'm glad that it did, you know, blow up slightly, because like, it still isn't very well known. Like, I still think
it's critically acclaimed, but a lot of people haven't seen it. And
it's a real shame, because even if you don't necessarily relate to it, I think it works so well as giving an insight into how people that feel that way actually feel.
Well, ultimately, storytelling, I think, the biggest thing that storytelling does across the board, regardless of what story you're telling, is it's empathy drivers, right? It's building bridges where you can empathize with people, whether they're people who are similar to you in your walk of life or not. So you can, and it's always more challenging to go and watch something that isn't something that you relate to, but if you go and watch something that's really, really good that's not something you relate to, it will make you relate to it, and therefore you build empathy with the people, the story that it's trying to tell. And so yeah, even if you don't relate directly to the issues it's talking about, you will empathize with them, and therefore potentially if you see someone who is similarly struggling, you will be able to empathize with them because you've had that empathy built up in you. So
yeah, it's such a great fucking show. I really need to finish it, but like, it was just so personal to me, and like, you know, I watched it from the moment it released up, and every single season that came out, I was waiting for it. You know, I was like, I have to see this next season, and for it to finally be ending and like reaching a point where I was like, this is like, it felt like a part of me was dying, honestly. And like, I don't say, like, I've never really thought about it that much before, but it really did. Like, it sounds over the top, but it was just such a massive part of my life that seeing it end just really like hurt me, and I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I'm going to make a decree here. When you do get around to finishing it, whenever that is, whether that's this week or 2 months from now or a year from now or whatever, we should do a roll for insight on it. Because I have some thoughts, but I don't want to say too many of those thoughts because it will go into spoilers. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm down.
Cool. But yeah, absolute masterpiece. Highly recommend. The other thing that I have done this past week is I beat Sifu after my slicing my thumb a couple of months back. I couldn't play Sifu for like 6 weeks. Finally went back and played it. I beat it. And I also beat my controller into oblivion. Hold on. That's one side of it where there's a nice big crack. There's also a nice big crack there. I can't quite see because of how dark it is. Point is, it's pretty fucking cracked. And
How did you even do that? Were you just gripping it too tightly?
I did this repeatedly. Oh. It's an old controller, and it's been getting slower and slower and slower, even when playing like PS4 and stuff. But it got to the final boss fight. Like, I put up with it until the final boss fight, when this guy who's so fucking tough to beat, I would chuck him to the ground, and then I would go and press circle to get down the ground and pummel him in the face 5 times, and my character would just be like, "You right down there?" The guy would get back up, punch me 3 times in the face, I'd be like, "Fuck!" So anyways, great game. Would love to play it on a good controller again. But no, fucking phenomenal game. So fun, and it almost makes me want to play a Souls-like game. Not Elden Ring, or maybe Elden Ring, because supposedly Elden Ring is actually the easiest of the lot, but it almost makes me want to try one. But the difference, I think, where Sifu becomes so much more forgiving, is that with the Souls-like games, you die and you get set back to the last time you went to a bonfire. So let's say you make your way all the way to a boss, and then you fight the boss and you die, and maybe you die really quickly, or maybe you die halfway through the boss fight, so you're starting to learn its mechanics, and then you get sent all the way back to a bonfire, and then you have to fight your way through so many other enemies that you need to remember how they work just to get to the boss, to potentially die within 3 seconds. I just can't do that. It's too grueling. And apparently Elden Ring has a like optional mode where you can turn it off and respawn right outside boss rooms. But still, it's so fucking grueling. And in comparison, Sifu, if you die, you age up, but you wake back up exactly where you were in the middle of the fight you were in. So if you were fighting a room of 3 goons and you half beaten one of them, you wake back up and they're all in the same health. You're in the same room, same equipment's there and everything. So you don't get set back. You just, because it's kind of a roguelike in that sense, when you hit it too old, you can't beat the game anymore. When you die, you're dead forever and have to restart. Not the entire game, but basically, like, each time you unlock a new level, you can access that level at the youngest age that you've ever been to that level. So level 2 is the club. If you get to the club at age 30 on your first attempt, then you can, restart the club at any point and you'll be back to age 30 with all the unlocks you had at that point. If you then went and beat the slums, which is the first level, and ended up beating it at age 21, you'd then be able to do the club from age 21 instead. So you don't get completely reset, but you do have to like grind a little bit to be able to get your unlocks earlier and be able to do levels at a younger age. I think I ended up getting to the final level at age 40, and I beat the game at like age 80 something, which is the oldest you can be, because that final boss fight was a bitch. But yeah, a really, really fun game. So highly recommend. Cool. We did it.
Nice.
Under 3 hours.
Oh, shit.
Usual length, but we had a lot to talk about, so hey, we did it.
Pretty good going.
Nice. Do you want to take it away?
Oh, if you if you like this podcast and want to see some more from us, or want to check out some of the shit that we've got coming up, like, subscribe, and comment. It would be very much appreciated.
Why don't we put that at the beginning of our nearly 3 hour video? I don't know why we
don't
never
know.
remember to do it at the beginning. It's just fine.
We're just too eager to start,
Yeah.
Oh, a bit of an update on the Piston Cup, although no one's going to be watching this. Tom and I have played Cars 2 to try and start figuring it out. Now, the thing is, when you first start the game, you don't have any modes unlocked. So in order to unlock the modes to be able to play like in free play, you have to play the game. So that is something I need to do. But it's progress. We are slowly but surely getting there. So maybe this week I'll play a bit of Cars 2. It's kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie. I would have liked to have just been able to jump straight into
Can you not just like download a save file where someone's gotten all the modes unlocked and just mod that into the game?
I didn't think about that. I may look into that. But yeah,
Usually work around things like that when people have put stupid game design in their games.
Yeah. So yeah, we're hopefully be able to do that sooner rather than later. But yeah, go and check out some of our other videos, and yeah, thank you. McClunky indeed. Thank you, Chester. Very poignant.
All right, let's end it.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. Bye bye.